At the Guardian Spirit Academy, the teacher told the students the admission test is less than a week away, so he urged them to prepare and enter their ideal academy. After class was dismissed, the students discussed entering any Guardian Academy. Some feared a plain life if they failed the test, while others planned to enter a top academy. Listening to this, a student named Lex wondered what it meant for him as a traverser. Just 1 week ago, he had found himself in this body. After merging memories, he quickly understood this world. It was a world of rampant monsters where humans survived behind city walls. To battle monsters, humans created the Spirit Guardian profession. With spiritual pets, they faced monsters in the wild. They also guarded cities and pushed territory outward. So becoming a Spirit Guardian was the dream of the youth. At 18, each youth received a monster egg to form their first pet. But Lex felt it was irrelevant because the egg was hatched before he arrived. Moreover, what emerged was an ugly pet that could only hop like a zombie. The pet was indeed sturdy but weak, so he suspected despair killed its owner. Aside from that, he now felt like an outcast compared to other traversers with cheats. But his thoughts broke when someone grabbed him and told him not to overthink. He was also reminded that a simple office life was not bad. Yet Lex brushed off Chen's comfort, since Chen is lucky with his top-tier wind wolf. Unexpectedly, he was notified that his pet's growth unlocked the Guardian Spirit system. Lex was momentarily stunned by this, then quickly filled with excitement, since the long-awaited cheat had finally arrived. However, a voice calling his name snapped him to reality. He then saw Chen looking all worried, so he assured him he was fine. With that, Chen urged him to work hard and maybe enter a low-level academy. However, he responded that there was no need to worry, since with the system now, a low academy no longer satisfied him. But his remark made a student laugh instantly. The student named Luke then said Lex can't enter the academy with his zombie pet. Hearing this, Chen reminded Luke not to rely on his family to bully, but Lex stopped him. He stressed the Liu family's strength in Tian City made resistance unwise, so he advised him to hold back until he entered a top academy. As they left, Luke's group mocked them, and Luke boasted he'd take the advanced test. Later outside, Chen said he was off to train, and Lex replied he'd head home first, since he planned to go home quickly to test the Guardian Spirit system. When he arrived home, he immediately began calling for the system. It responded and informed him it could evaluate pets and help them level faster. Hearing that it could rapidly upgrade his pet, he eagerly opened his profile. Once it opened, he accessed his spirit pet's information. There he saw the detailed status of his rank 2 black-eyed zombie. He then marveled at the evolution option and wondered if his zombie could grow stronger. In this world, a pet's evolution greatly boosts its growth, where growth potential was classified into 8 ranks, from trash up to myth. Though myth was supreme, no spiritual pet attained it. Meanwhile, trash rank limited pets to rank 4 level 10, while mediocre rank allowed rank 5 level 10. Only epic pets reached 9 or 10, and legendary pets stood higher with greater skills. So, if his pet became the red-eyed zombie king, it might attain myth level. He then laughed, knowing the system made entry to a top academy possible. However, he quickly remembered to check the materials for evolution. As he examined it, he saw the system offered novice benefits. The system allowed his pet's first evolution free, and gave 2 attribute points. He then looked at his pet, and chose to evolve it. The moment he selected the evolve option, the zombie began to transform before his eyes. He watched as it changed from a small creature into the form of a young woman. Seeing this, he wondered if the drastic transformation meant he'd made a mistake. But after a short while, the evolution was complete. His pet then called him master and asked him to take care of her. Following that, he watched as she stood steadily on the floor. He also marveled at her beauty and became curious about her abilities. So he checked her attributes, knowing she'd soon hunt monsters with him. Her status showed a white-eyed zombie with much stronger stats. He also felt excited to see her advance to common rank and learned a skill. He then checked her bloodlust skill that let her recover and grow stronger by fighting, and even with cooldowns, bloodlust and damage reduction made her a strong frontline. After learning her abilities, he asked the system how to get skill points and talent points. It then explained he had 2 free points that could enhance both his pet and himself. Upon learning that he could even improve his own skills, he was astonished. Since Spirit Guardians required long practice and the Academy offered only basics, such as spiritual chain, shield, and vision, while advanced powers demanded cultivation. But upgrading himself was impractical, so he gave the points to his zombie. After choosing, he saw talents like damage reduction, regeneration, and berserker, so he then could not help but marvel at how powerful they were. After some thought, he chose high-speed regeneration, believing a zombie should heal fast, and once applied, she could recover unless killed outright. Yet he also knew pets could suffer fatal wounds, so regeneration was vital. Next, he He picked Berserker with Bloodlust, letting her recover and strike harder. As the enhancements took effect, she smiled faintly. Lex saw this and grew confident, knowing her power could become terrifying, so he did not hesitate anymore and added the Berserker. After finishing the upgrades, he realized he could no longer call her Black-Eyed Zombie. He pinched her cheek and found her skin soft like a human. However, she blushed at his action and asked what he was doing. Startled by this, he apologized, knowing the word zombie might have upset her. He then decided to finally call her Chu and asked what she thought. In response, she nodded in agreement, so he quickly updated her profile name to Chu and she accepted. While doing so, he realized she now carried 4 skills. This made her stronger than equal pets, yet further growth required hunting monsters, so he finally decided that it was time to begin hunting. Lex's Federation was advanced, but used spiritual energy instead of fuel. This energy drove machinery, though vehicles were limited to city use, since monsters outside made travel perilous and driving alone fatal. Hence, cars dominated city travel while airships ensured safe intercity trips. Moreover, powerful guardians escorted airships, ensuring safety against most threats. The Alliance also used credit points as its only currency, like money in his past life. After paying the fare, Lex asked the driver to take him to the South Gate, but the driver still asked if he was from Tien's school, and warned the South Gate was dangerous, so he confirmed he was going out to hunt monsters. Tien City actually had 4 main gates, east, west, north, and south, where each is guarded by soldiers to prevent monster invasions. After some time, Lex reached the South Gate, certain he was not the same as before, but he was suddenly stopped by a guard and asked to present identification, so he quickly presented his card and was cleared to go after it. Once outside, he remembered there were weak monsters nearby, while beyond lay stronger foes, but he knew it was better to remain cautious, so he proceeded to summon Chu to his side. After that, he looked at the map, thankful he had studied the monsters around the gate. He then saw the burial mound where weak skeletons lingered and could collect evolution materials, so he signaled Chu for them to set off there. While on their way, Lex thought about Chu's evolution materials. At the same time, he checked her profile and was pleased she had reached common rank. But to evolve, she needed flawless bone, dark heart, crystals, and dark essence. And in this burial mound, there was a chance to obtain 2 of these materials. He checked the system and confirmed bones and crystals were in the area. Just then, Chu suddenly spoke, so he asked what was wrong and reminded her they had arrived. She replied that undead creatures were everywhere. He agreed at once since the place was known for undead, but he was puzzled as the map marked level 3 skeletons around, but the area was empty. At that moment, a bony hand reached from the ground and grabbed his foot. Soon after, more skeletons began emerging and reaching after him, so he immediately ordered Chu to deal with them. But the system suddenly issued a new mission. He was tasked to eliminate 20 skeletons with a reward of 50% pet experience. He was taken aback by the generous reward, and quickly commanded Chu to attack with her sharp claws. With precise movements, she quickly strikes one of the skeletons, and she soon eliminated all the skeletons surrounding him. Shortly after, the system notified him that she had defeated 4 skeletons, so Lex figured he didn't need to hesitate if she's this strong. At that moment, more skeletons rushed toward them. Hence, he immediately gave another order, and Chu responded by leaping forward. She launched herself into the air as she unleashed a series of attacks. As he watched, Lex recalled her claws carried corpse poison, but it had little effect on skeletons. Yet Chu still managed to crush the skeletons with ease, as they were far below her level. His mission then advanced quickly with 6 skeletons down in 6 minutes. However, they soon noticed another skeleton rising nearby. Both of them were slightly taken aback. As more skeletons began emerging and rushing toward them, Chu coldly raised her hands once again, and with a swift strike, she eliminated 3 of them at once. Not long after, Lex's mission ended, and he gained experience points for Chu's level up. The moment he activated the upgrade, her body glowed faintly as her level increased. He then checked her stats and was surprised she had gained 1 level. The system also informed him she reached level 3, and he gained 1 free point. Knowing that strengthening her is a priority, he decided to invest the point in her. Without delay, he improved her defense against magic. Afterward, he told her the map showed elite skeletons nearby, and they would search. Upon hearing this, she responded with a smile. Later, deep within the forest, Lex stopped when he spotted a figure nearby. Upon closer inspection, he confirmed that it was a skeleton soldier. Unlike the others, it carried a sword and looked more fearsome. As he observed the skeleton further, he noticed another person nearby. It was a girl standing there with a calm expression, so he instinctively chose to hide and watch the situation unfold. The skeleton soldier charged forward, But the girl showed no concern, and Lex realized it was actually Jane. He continued watching and noticed that she was waiting for the skeleton to approach. However, what puzzled him was that her spirit pet was nowhere in sight. Just as he tried to understand it, something appeared above him. At that moment, Jane summoned her earth dragon. As soon as she spoke, a rare earth dragon appeared behind her. She then raised her hand and ordered it to deal with the enemy. In an instant, the dragon surged forward and confronted the skeleton soldier head-on. With a single flick of its tail, the skeleton's body was quickly broken off. Soon, its body quickly fell into the ground. Lex, on the other hand, watched the scene in astonishment. Yet the dragon did not stop there, and it let out a loud growl. Its fierce gaze locked onto the skeleton and raised its claws towards it. The skeleton sensed the danger and could only look up. Soon, the dragon's claw slammed down. Then a faint purple mist began to rise from the broken body. Jane calmly took out a vial and guided the mist into it. Lex saw the soul fire appeared, and Jane's prepared vial confirmed her family's power. On the other side, Jane gently patted her dragon and praised it. Then she turned around and called out for Lex to come out from hiding. Hearing this, Lex confirmed she was really the talented Huo heir who's already at 7th level. So he finally stepped out and was asked who he was and why he hid. Lex tried to claim he was only passing when Jane surprised him by calling him by his name. She then explained she had heard of him whose first spirit was a zombie that could not evolve. Lex stayed silent, but she continued to ask what he was doing alone in the burial mound. He then replied curtly that it was none of her business. The dragon, hearing his tone, became visibly irritated. It suddenly approached them, causing both of them to glance at it in confusion. In the next moment, it directed its hostility toward Lex, which startled him. Jane laughed lightly at the reaction, but she quickly stopped her dragon from scaring Lex. She even continued praising it while Lex steadied himself. After that, Jane called out to him again, so he turned around. She kindly reminded him the place was dangerous and advised him to leave, but he refused firmly, insisting he could handle himself and she need not worry. With that, he decided to leave and wondered if she still thought him useless. Jane watched silently as he walked away. So her dragon turned its gaze toward her. She frowned, noting her kindness was dismissed, and resolved to see what he planned to do. She then sealed her dragon, thinking few 3rd graders would enter alone, especially Lex. Precisely because of that, she wanted to find out what he was really up to. Later on, Jane began to follow him from a distance. Lex noticed her presence and wondered what she was doing. When he glanced back, he saw that she looked slightly annoyed. Lex ignored her and moved forward until a skeletal hand grabbed his foot. Immediately after, multiple skeleton soldiers began emerging from the earth. He frowned seeing this and wondered if he had walked into a trap. After all, such a large number of skeletons appearing at once was weird. Jane also saw him in trouble as 3 skeleton officers and soldiers surrounded him. At that moment, one of the skeleton officers charged forward and swung its sword at Lex. Facing the incoming attack, he quickly raised his hand and summoned his spiritual pet. A magic circle formed beneath him as he called Chu. Chu quickly emerged from it and positioned herself directly in front of him. Jane, who was surprised, saw her and thought Chu might be mutated or evolved. Meanwhile, on Lex's command, Chu immediately rushed forward. Her claws were aimed at the skeleton officer. The officer reacted quickly and raised its shield, causing her strike to collide against it. However, just as the impact landed, Chu suddenly vanished. In the next instant, she reappeared behind the officer without it noticing. With a swift motion, she drove her claws straight into its skull, then sent its head rolling across the ground. Yet she remained calm and unmoved. Witnessing this, Jane thought this zombie's power was unnatural. On the other side, Lex said to himself the true fight was yet to come, but his attention then shifted to the system notification in front of him. He was ordered to defeat 20 skeletons and 100 officers to gain experience and outfit for his pet. Seeing this, he felt excited but admitted defeating 100 officers would be hard. But before he could think further, more skeletons rushed toward them. Seeing the overwhelming number, he immediately ordered Chu to activate her berserker skill. Blood then began to trickle from the corner of her mouth, and her aura surged dramatically. Jane heard this and thought berserker drained health for power, and found it unsettling in a zombie. Meanwhile, Chu's attributes had already risen significantly, so she charged straight into the horde of skeletons without hesitation. In a short span of time, the ground was littered with shattered bones. Chu then turned her focus toward the skeleton officers. Lex saw this and decided to test his spiritual chain ability. Several chains quickly appeared around the officer. Then it soon bound it in place and prevented it from moving. After that, Lex completely subdued the skeleton officer, so he then signaled Chu to finish it. She quickly used her enhanced speed and she rushed forward. With a focused gaze, she twisted her body and delivered a powerful kick. Her foot struck the skeleton's skull, and sent it flying straight into the surrounding skeletons. The impact caused them to scatter and collapse into disarray. Jane then felt unsettled seeing Berserker could challenge her dragon. Meanwhile, Lex felt extremely satisfied with this great surprise. So without delay, he ordered Chu to end the battle quickly. Chu immediately shifted her attention to the remaining enemies. Locking onto her targets, she dashed forward after the skeleton officer. Her claws shot toward its head and shattered the skull in a single strike. The remains of the officer also crumbled to the ground, but she did not pause and swiftly turned to the remaining skeleton soldiers. In a short time, all of them were eliminated with their bones scattered across the ground. Jane was then shaken by Chu's power and thought Lex could be his rival in entering the top academy. However, she was unwilling to accept defeat and decided to withdraw for now. On the other side, Lex began inspecting the remains of the skeletons. Picking up one of the skulls, he wondered why no loot appeared after so many kills. He then tossed the skull aside and wished for auto-collection. At that moment, the system flashed a message that it had detected his needs. A mission was issued to reach rank 2 and unlock auto-collection with a mystery reward. However, he was still at rank 3 and had to gather items himself. After searching for a while, he noticed something shining among the remains. He looked closely and realized it was a flawless bone. His eyes lit up as he grabbed it, knowing it was needed for Chu's evolution. Then he stored it and admitted the first material was simple to obtain. After that, he checked the system and saw flawless bone and darkness crystal were in the burial mound. So he told Chu to keep searching, as many targets remained, and she agreed. A few hours later, she continued fighting against more skeleton soldiers. However, the prolonged battle had clearly exhausted her. Seizing the opportunity, a skeleton officer charged toward her with its sword raised. But before the enemies could reach her, her body was suddenly enveloped in a red aura. The energy intensified, and she vanished from sight. An instant later, she appeared overhead them and brought her clasped hands down. The impact sent the skeleton's skull flying as it was crushed in a single blow. Once the battle ended, Lex casually stepped on a skull, but his attention quickly shifted to the system notification. He was told he earned 50% experience and Chu's special attire. He then saw Chu's experience at 80%, an almost unheard of speed. In addition, he gained an outfit offering strong defense and automatic cleaning. So he summoned Chu, whose clothes were ripped in the fight. Then he handed her the new outfit and asked her to change into it. Upon receiving it, she agreed without hesitation. As she changed, her previous clothing disappeared, which caught Lex off guard and caused him to feel embarrassment. Soon after, the new garment gradually formed over her body. After a short while, she had fully equipped the bloody outfit. Lex wasted no time and had her tested in combat. As new skeletons emerged, she rushed forward and pierced them with her claws. Lex watched with satisfaction knowing the garment repaired itself, so she can use it to fight for a while. With her new equipment, Chu charged through the incoming skeletons once again. She soon leveled up, and Lex was amazed she reached level 4 in a day. At the same time, the system congratulated him and notified him that he had gained another free point. But since it was late and monsters grew stronger at night, he chose to return. He led the way home, telling Chu to follow, and she did. Later that night, Lex lay on his bed, reviewing the system. He saw how far they had come but pressed on, knowing the academy test was only days away. With that in mind, he drifted off with the thought of requesting leave tomorrow. Meanwhile, outside a mansion, multiple spiritual chains were scattered in the air. They all came from Jane, who was training by binding a dummy. However, she soon grew tired, yet determined not to lose against Lex. At that moment, her father arrived and asked why she was still awake so late. She quickly told him that she had seen an evolved zombie that day. However, he dismissed her claim, insisting that zombies could not evolve. He then reassured her that the selection mattered, but she need not pressure herself. Hearing this, she finally calmed down and her father urged her to sleep. 3 days later, outside a high-rise building, Lex stood feeling all confident, since today was the day of the academy selection. At the same time, multiple aircraft arrived at the mayor's mansion, while numerous cars made their way along the roads toward it. Soon, the entire area was filled with vehicles. Chen saw this and marveled at the airships belonging to the academies. After a while, Mayor Kong showed up, saying he had awaited their arrival. Several representatives saw him and stepped forward to greet him. Fred of Qing Academy, rank 7 level 8, even bowed respectfully. Meanwhile, Tom of Bai Academy apologized for the inconvenience of their arrival. As Mayor Kong replied that the journey must have been tiring, a woman stepped forward. She introduced herself as Lily from the Huo family, representing Xuan Academy, and wanting to meet the rumored genius girl. Hearing this, Kong greeted her warmly. He also agreed Jane of the Huo family was a genius among the younger generation. However, Hana from the Zuju Academy urged him to start, and he agreed to head to the trial. Meanwhile, at the examination grounds, the students had already gathered. Among them was Chen, who was searching for Lex. Unable to locate him, he thought Lex might have abandoned the trials, but to his surprise, Lex suddenly appeared and called out to him. He even greeted him casually and asked if he was late. Chen then hit him, asking where he had been since he thought he was dead. He quickly explained he spent days cultivating, and Chen noted he seemed different. Hearing this, he explained it was likely due to an impending offer from the top academy. However, the crowd laughed at him, saying he should not dream so big. Some even claimed his pet would embarrass him, and he would remain just an ordinary person. Still, he declared they could laugh now, but not afterward, leaving Chen puzzled. But their talk ended when a student announced the arrival of the representatives and the mayor. The front stage opened and a portal appeared. Moments later, the mayor and representatives emerged from it. Kong immediately observed their liveliness and told his aide to proceed. Thus, he ordered everyone to remain quiet, as the trial was about to start. Hearing this, Lex muttered that they must wait for his performance. Soon after, the teacher began explaining the contents of the trial to them. He announced the trial had 2 parts, the first being survival in a secret domain. Only those who survived the first stage advanced to combat. In this stage, students were split into groups and fought battles where winners advanced. He also added that the top 10 would enter the top academy, or a high-ranking one. Moreover, he reminded everyone not to push too far since it could cost them their lives. Suddenly, a girl asked if death was possible, and he said survival depended only on themselves. Unease spread among students, but Lex was excited to face it. At that moment, his attention was drawn to a new system notification. He was tasked to complete the first recruitment trial for 3 crystals, which shocked him. But he realized the domain held only rank 1 beasts, which posed little problem. Just then, he heard another student shout that the person at the front was Jane. Jane on the other side was scanning the crowd, searching for Lex. Meanwhile, the crowd talked about Jane being seated and observed by top academies. Lex heard this and grew more determined to prove he was the true genius. After a while, the students' attention returned to the stage. Mayor Kong silenced them and raised his hand to form a portal. Soon after, he declared the gate was open, and the first stage had begun. The proctor then told them to enter quickly and secure good positions. As soon as the order was given, Jane was the first to rush into the gate. Lily saw this and complimented her by saying she lived up to her family's fame. However, Tom interrupted her and shifted his attention elsewhere. He pointed at Lex, saying the last entrant seemed interesting. But he was reminded entry orders should follow academic performance, and Tom kept observing. On the other side, Lex deliberately allowed the others to enter first, since he believed the secret realm was ideal for him to gather materials. With that in mind, he calmly stepped into the portal. Inside the realm, the environment split into different regions. Some students found themselves in dense forests, others appeared near flowing streams, while some were transported into barren deserts. Lex, however, felt a cold wind brush against his face. When he looked around, he realized that he had been placed at the peak of a mountain, so he decided to summon Chu first for him to be much safer. Soon after, he called her forth. She appeared instantly in front of him. Following that, he told her that they needed to descend the mountain. But later, after walking for a while, he noticed he had met no participants or monsters. Just as the thought crossed his mind, a sudden presence appeared behind them. A loud noise followed, forcing him to cover his ears. When he finally looked up, he saw a large bird letting out a fierce roar. He saw it was a steel-winged bird that is usually ranked 4, but this one is still an infant, so he decided to order Chu to deal with it. Upon receiving the command, she acknowledged it and extended her claws. In the next moment, she leaped forward and rushed directly at the bird. With a single strike, she slashed through its feathers. The bird let out an angry cry, but it still retreated, and Lex laughed, saying it would not be lucky next time. Setting that aside, he told Chu it was unfortunate she can't fly, and he thought of getting a flying pet. Later, as the bird continued roaming outside, Lex and Chu decided to take shelter in a cave and endure the 3-day trial there. However, before long, they once again heard the deafening cries of the bird. Lex realized it was following them, and knew they could not rest until it was dealt with. But he saw the bird avoided attacking since it feared Chu, so its true target was him. So he decided to step out to lure it and told Chu to stay hidden. He then shouted at the bird and provoked it to attack. The creature grew furious, but still hesitated. He saw it was cautious, so he moved farther to draw it in. As expected, the bird followed him. After a while, Lex reached the thicket and knew it was the perfect spot for danger. Just as he anticipated, the bird let out a sharp cry. Then it unleashed a barrage of sharp feathers toward him, catching him off guard. He quickly noticed the bird showed intelligence before striking, and fortunately he was prepared, so he activated his spiritual shield to block the incoming feathers. However, he realized the bird's feathers were strong enough to break through. He also noticed the bird swooping down toward him, so he grew worried knowing the beak was deadlier, and his level 1 shield might fail. Without hesitation, he switched to his spiritual chains. The chains shot upward and wrapped tightly around the bird's body. Trapped and unable to move, the bird struggled violently. Lex saw this as an opportunity and called for Chu to finish it off. She then quickly appeared midair and replied that she understood, and without further ado, she extended her claws. The bird saw this and attempted to retaliate. It flinged its sharp feathers toward her, but her expression remained calm and resolute. With a single decisive strike, she cut it down and ended the fight. Lex then looked at the fallen bird, saying it can't fly now, and moved to check its materials. As he picked up the head, he noted the materials were valuable, but not needed now, including its feathers, talons, and beak, so he needs to level up to the second stage first. Setting that aside, he told Chu the neck meat was a delicacy, and they could have a good meal. So, as they returned to the cave, he questioned if zombies preferred raw or cooked food, but Chu did not understand. Back in the arena, many observers had witnessed the battle between Lex and the bird. Lily was among them and was impressed that he defeated the creature so easily. Tom also praised Lex's youthful strength, and Fred mentioned Lex's humanoid spirit pet. But while Hana said her academy only took girls, the mayor's aide arrived with information. Kong casually took a sip of his drink as he reviewed Lex's background. Not long after, his eyes widened in shock, and he even coughed as he processed what he had discovered. Lily, who had also examined Chu's profile, was surprised to learn that she was actually a zombie. Hearing this, the others looked at the information in disbelief. Tom then thought Lex's zombie had evolved, but Hana said zombies could not evolve. Even so, he found the situation intriguing. So he turned back to the monitor, saying everything will be revealed if they recruited Lex. Back in the secret realm, a large python coiled itself around a rock pillar. Lex hid under it, and was convinced the place was safe since the snake kept others away, so he trusted the python's scent to shield him and keep him safe for 3 days. However, the smoke nearby made him think fools lighting fire at night is courting death. Meanwhile, the smoke came from Lex's side, and he tried to share the food with Chu, but she refused. So he opened his mouth wide and took a bite of the roasted bird. He was even moved by the taste as the meat proved its fine reputation. While he enjoyed his meal, Chu watched him with a curious expression. However, her focus shifted as she sensed something unusual. The area was silent with only wind blowing, yet red eyes glowed in the bushes, so she stepped forward to investigate. Moments later, a white wolf emerged, followed by several gray wolves. Seeing this, she immediately extended her claws and prepared to protect Lex. Lex then tossed the meat aside and welcomed them to gain experience. The Wolf King at level 7 then led the pack and stared with sharp fangs. It also stood larger and more imposing than the gray wolves around it. Lex knew this was no ordinary foe and told Chu he relied on her. At that moment, the Wolf King growled, and the pack quickly charged. Chu on the other side stood ready, with her claws flashing. With swift movements, she cut through the gray wolves that rushed at her. However, another wolf suddenly appeared behind her, so she struck it away with a powerful kick. At the same time, the Wolf King made its move and targeted Lex directly. Its speed was astonishing as it leaped toward him. Startled by this, Lex instinctively called for Chu. Chu reacted instantly by turning back. She stopped the attack and caught the Wolf King's jaws with her bare hands. However, the remaining wolves pressed forward too, so she was forced to throw the Wolf King aside first. Then she unleashed slashes at the gray wolves and the Wolf King. As a result, the Wolf King was forced to distance itself from her. After all, it's now wounded with its right eye scratched by her attack. Lex witnessed all of this and praised Chu, while recognizing her higher level of 9. Just then, the Wolf King began to let out a frenzied roar. Its expression turned ferocious, and its eyes shifted to a deep red. Without hesitation, it rushed toward them at top speed. However, Chu managed to leap away before it could strike her. She immediately countered by kicking it hard in the chest, and sending the Wolf King flying to the other side. After that, Lex verified its death, then moved to examine it. He then retrieved the heart and dark blood essence for Chu's evolution from it. Meanwhile, outside, observers marveled at Lex's power, yet also recalled his useless reputation. Lex's professor was also confused and questioned if it was truly his pet. After a while, the portal gate opened and released a participant who called for help. Kong saw that he was injured and ordered the medical staff to come. Yet, as the student was carried away, he pleaded for another chance to continue participating. The teacher then sighed, knowing these dangerous trials often reduce students to ordinary lives, so he glanced at the monitor, knowing one more minute would give them another chance. Meanwhile, Fred raised his hand, wanting Lex, but Tom said he found him first. Yet their attention shifted to Lily, who began to speak. She remarked it was surprising, and that Lex's pet was powerful. Fred also admitted Chu had power, yet Kong told them to stay calm until the test ended. Hence, he He urged them to continue observing the situation inside the realm. Back in the cave, Lex knew the Wolf King's blood would draw monsters, so he and Chu left. Just then, Chu suddenly informed him that something was wrong. Lex noticed her turning around and quickly asked what had happened. Nearby, they saw a participant running away from a python. The python was extremely fast at level 9, and Luke could only curse as he fled. Due to this, Lex soon recognized that the person running was Luke. Meanwhile, Luke grew frustrated knowing his snoring had awakened the python. But before he could say more, the python's gaze grew savage. It also began to unleash venomous liquid toward him, forcing him to shout desperately for help. In his panic, he tripped and fell to the ground, while continuing to call out. At that moment, he spotted Lex nearby and was surprised he was still alive. However, he saw Lex's arrival as perfect, since he planned to drag him down too. So, he ran again, drawing the python toward Lex. Lex saw this and began to wonder if Luke had lost his mind. Suddenly, Luke leapt forward with the python behind and shouting Lex must die. Before being devoured, he triggered the portal saying Lex would not escape hardship too. The python's jaws then slammed into the ground due to this. At the same time, another portal appeared in the venue outside. Luke emerged from it and fell heavily onto the ground. A teacher approached him and urged him to have his severed arm treated, but he refused and shouted for the teacher to leave him. A menacing smile even spread across his face as he vowed to stay and watch. He then turned his gaze to the monitor, cursing Lex and eagerly anticipating his death. Meanwhile, at the stage, Hana looked at the python asking if Lex could defeat it. Fred quickly argued Lex had no chance since the python is at level 9. Unexpectedly, Tom proposed making a bet and offered 50,000 federal points, where he confidently said that Lex would win. Fred accepted the same wager but bet that Lex would run away. Hana also agreed retreating was wiser and placed her bet. After her, Tom turned to Lily and asked for her bet, so she calmly replied that Lex would be killed. The others then laughed, calling her cunning, then asked the mayor for his wager, but he refused. Back in the realm, the python made Lex understand he's at a disadvantage even with Chu. He also knew his level 1 spiritual skills were useless against such a monster. To boost his chances, he upgraded his spiritual skill through the system. He then saw the level 2 chain demanded twice the energy and lasted 3 full activations. So, while the python releases poison, he prepares to strike at the perfect moment. He also began running to avoid the poison and reminded Chu to stay alert. Still, she decided to charge toward the python, but it easily evaded her attacks. Lex was surprised and warned her to be careful of the corrosive poison. At that moment, the python released its venom toward her, so she was forced to step back quickly to avoid it. To their surprise, it also began releasing poisonous gas. Lex realized the danger and raised his hand to finish it quickly. His spiritual chain then appeared and wrapped around the python. After restraining it, he called out to Chu to have her finish it off. She quickly rushed forward without hesitation and delivered a precise strike that hit the python directly in the head. The chain tightened further and prevented the creature from breathing. Once the restraint was released, its body collapsed to the ground while Lex praised Chu. On the other stadium, the spectators could not believe he had killed the python. Luke was among them since he's still convinced that Lex was nothing but trash. Meanwhile, Fred admired Lex's level 2 skill, and Hana agreed that few could advance so quickly. But Kong listened in silence, wondering why he had never noticed Lex before. Suddenly, Tom reminded everyone about settling their bets, so Lily responded that it was worth it and excused herself to go to the washroom. However, she was actually determined to get Lex and have the headmaster give great offers. Back in the realm, Lex examined the scales and the gallbladder he had obtained. He even noted it was useful as evolution material, and Chu was nearly level 10. Just then, their attention was drawn by the distant howls of demonic wolves. Elsewhere in the forest, demonic wolves approached Jane and her dragon. She was then surprised that many had appeared at once. She also noticed the Wolf King shared her dragon's level, but the sheer numbers favored them. Before she could think further, the Wolf King howled, and the gray wolves rushed forward. The Earth Dragon then immediately braced itself. Before the wolves could reach it, it released a powerful roar that sent several of them flying. It also spread its wings and knocked away those attacking from the sides. Despite this, one wolf managed to slip through and bite into its body. So the dragon roared in pain, and the sound forced the wolves to hesitate. Jane grew anxious, knowing her dragon was strong yet lacked speed. Therefore, she ordered it to take flight and retreat. However, the Wolf King suddenly lunged toward them, so she was forced to command her dragon to fight back. The dragon unleashed another deafening roar, but the Wolf King managed to close the distance and bite into its arm. Jane panicked at the sight and asked if it was all right. At the same time, she saw wolves rushing up and she began to fear this was the end. But the dragon's pain growl snapped her back to her senses. she realized quitting the trial was better than losing her dragon. Unexpectedly, the incoming wolves were sliced apart before her eyes. She then watches the Wolf King and his pack driven back by sharp slashes. Moments later, Chu landed beside Lex. Lex recognized Jane from a distance and called out to her. Hence, she was surprised to see that it was him, but he simply remarked that her large dragon appeared to be badly injured. Back in the arena, Tom noted Lily's chosen genius almost had to teleport out. Lily was displeased by it and warned him not to assume before the end. However, he continued saying that if he were Lex, he would have stayed out. While he thought another person was a competitor, Lex faced the Wolf King. He thought it sought revenge and had Chu unleash bloodlust. At his command, her body began to glow red. Without hesitation, she leapt toward the Wolf King. The remaining gray wolves charged at her as well, but she cut them down effortlessly with her claws. As the pack fell one by one, fear began to creep into the Wolf King. Lex did not give it any chance to escape and ordered Chu to finish it. She immediately obeyed and cornered the Wolf King. Refusing to retreat, the Wolf King's eyes burned with fury. Then it lunged toward Chu bearing its fangs. Watching this, Jane was stunned by the clash, but Lex shouted for her to duck. Her dragon took flight just in time, as the Wolf King crashed into their spot. Seeing this, she marveled that Lex gained such power so quickly and rescued her. However, she realized he was more interested in the corpse than speaking to her, so she took the chance to thank him, but he told her to rest, since it's dangerous. Hearing this, she thought he cared about her and suggested working together. But he was momentarily confused by the idea. He felt it's better to continue alone, yet her wounded dragon kept him from abandoning her. On the other hand, she speculated he thought she might slow him, so she offered money. She promised 100,000 for his help until the trial closed. Hearing this, he saw the money could buy evolution materials, so he accepted. However, she was annoyed that he took the offer so easily for cash. Suddenly, she saw him raise his hand and wondered if he meant to hold hers for safety. So she shyly told him that it was too much, since they were not that close. However, he simply asked about the card containing the money. She grew annoyed hearing this, and explained she lacked that sum right now. But as she promised to pay him once they leave safely, he handed her a paper. He calmly explained a contract was needed and instructed her to sign it. She quickly snapped, hearing this, and questioned if he truly had to go that far. However, he stayed expressionless, and asked if she would sign, so she had no other choice but to sign the document. Then she handed it back to him, asking if he was satisfied. He accepted it and assured her she could relax as he would keep her safe. After all, she was worth 100,000, but his words irritated her. Yet he showed no concern, and took materials from the corpse before finding safer place. Back in the arena, everyone watched the scene unfold. Lily even said luck favored the Huo daughter, while Tom noted Jane was fortunate to have Lex. Fred also said he had not foreseen Lex's power, and Hannah agreed his pet is powerful. After hearing them, Kong remarked that 4 of them now targeted Lex. Hannah confirmed this and said the principal already approved. Lily then teased Hannah for matchmaking Lex into the female academy, yet Hannah said it was fair. Suddenly, Fred wondered why Lex needed money, and Kong said it was from his poor rank and background. Hearing that he lacked both status and rank, the others were visibly surprised. Meanwhile, back in the realm, Lex dozed off while Jane rested nearby, but she broke the silence by asking when he became so powerful. She leaned in closer, saying she could not sleep, and they should talk now, but he refused. So she offered to pay him 5,000 credits just to have a conversation. He then asked if she was serious, and when she confirmed, he asked what she wanted. So she asked how he became so strong, and why his pet was unlike a zombie. In response, he explained Chu was a mutated zombie, since he could not show his system. Jane studied Chu, and said she was beautiful for a mutated zombie. After that, she asked if he had chosen an academy given his high chance of acceptance. He replied he had not decided, and could choose an academy with pretty girls. Hearing this, she looked at him in disbelief. She then called him a playboy, and he responded that was not kind. Setting that aside, he said they could move, but she wondered why not wait for the trial to end. He explained it was the perfect time to hunt and level up, so he told Chu to follow. Jane thought he was a maniac, but staying with him was safest. As they continued forward, several monsters appeared from above. Their eyes glowed red, and their expressions were filled with rage. The level 7 apes began to attack, and Lex saw it as perfect timing. He quickly ordered Chu to attack, and she responded without hesitation. She extends her claws and strikes each ape with precise blows. While Jane thought Lex was lucky to have Chu, he told Chu to finish it. She quickly carried out his command and ended the monsters. By the time morning arrived, Jane felt relieved that the trial had finally come to an end, where both of them were congratulated for passing. So she immediately thanked Lex, but he said it was only for money. Hearing this, she found him still dense, yet assured him of her promise. After confirming it, he opened a portal and said he must prepare for tomorrow. Back in the arena, about 82 passed and celebrated, while the rest left grieving. After a while, Lex came out and saw Chen, whom he quickly congratulated. Chen was also relieved he was safe, and reassured him failure was fine. But to his surprise, Lex showed him his pass card that confirms his success. However, their exchange was cut short when Kong congratulated the passers. The others nearby assumed that Kong had come for Shane, the genius of their academy. Shane from the Lee family even came up and greeted the mayor. So Kong told him to rest and send regards to his father, which Shane acknowledged. Afterward, Kong turned to Lex to confirm if it was him, and Lex said yes. Chen and Lex then listened as he told him to rest and prepare. Once Kong left, Chen asked if Lex knew the mayor, but he said no. Setting that aside, he told Chen to treat his wounds while he went to rest. Not far away, Shane asked about Lex, and his friends said Lex and his pet were known trash. However, Shane did not believe it, and vowed to uncover Lex's power in the next trial. Later that night, at Lex's house, he collapsed on the couch, feeling thankful for his system, since he had gathered many materials and thought of selling the extras. Soon, he got a notification that Jane sent payment and her contact. After that, he also verified the trial mission's success and received 3 energy crystals. He checked the crystals and found each gave 500 spirit points. The discovery left him amazed, since he now has 1,500 spirit points, and combined with an extra 900, he now had 2,400 points. He then recalled rank 1 capped at 1,000, unless advanced to rank 2. But knowing most students' pets were still rank 1, he expected the next trial to go smoothly. Setting that aside, he decided to treat himself with his earnings. So he first planned to check on Chen, who had been injured. At the same time, he noticed Jane's contact on his screen. He then figured a meal would be a fitting thank you for her generosity. At that moment, Jane was in the bathtub when her watch received a call. She quickly answered and asked who it was. Hearing it was Lex, she listened as he invited her to dinner with his friend. In excitement, she asked for the agreed location and wanted to say more, but the call dropped, so she felt annoyed that he had the audacity to hang up on her. Later, outside the restaurant, Chen questioned the spot, so Lex said they will be celebrating. He also said another would join, but Chen knew he had no other friends, so he gestured for Chen to look toward the incoming car. Before long, it stopped right in front of them. Then Jane stepped out and greeted Lex. Chen was flustered upon realizing who it was, while Lex calmly greeted her. After that, he introduced Chen to Jane, even though Chen already knew her. So Chen greeted her kindly, and she answered while Lex suggested they enter. Before entering, Jane was even welcomed by the restaurant management. Soon after, they were led to a private room with many dishes. Chen was amazed by it, and Lex told him to relax since it was his treat thanks to Jane. Yet she brushed it aside, saying she was happy to be his friend. On the other hand, Chen lost interest in their talk and focused on the food. So Jane finally urged them to start eating, and Lex agreed. Meanwhile, at the Liu mansion, the family urged the head to remove Luke as heir. Some even urged Luke to resign for a capable successor. They also argued the family's future could not rest on Luke, even if he was the son. The family head named Yao silenced them and stated he had already chosen. Hearing this, Luke claimed his defeat was due to meeting a python. So Yao's expression hardened even more. He then stripped Luke of heirship and announced a younger successor, which pleased the family. Luke listened quietly to their talk of a new heir, and felt robbed of all he had. In that moment, he thought of Lex with resentment and vowed to take his life. The next day at the stadium, the stages were fully prepared, so Chen warned Lex to be careful with his zombie, but Lex assured him it was fine. After a while, Kong praised them on reaching the second trial where results would be set. He also told them to perform well before the Academy representatives. After his announcement, the second stage was revealed as a random battle, where defeat meant giving up, falling off the stage, or failing. Lex then grasped that killing was prohibited, but permanent disabilities were accepted in the trial. Before he could think more, Kong announced the start of the battle. A screen soon showed the ring assignments, and Lex was picked first. At that moment, his attention shifted to a notification from his system. He got 6 missions with EXP for each win, and rewards for top ranks. But his thoughts were interrupted when he was called to enter Ring 4. He then apologized to the referee, and was reminded to mind the time. Moving forward, he faced his opponent Carl without knowing his abilities. Carl, however, appeared smug, glaring at him with confidence. Without further ado, he summoned his spirit pet Unirose. So Lex responded by summoning Chu, who swiftly appeared behind him. Her beauty quickly captivated the audience, who doubted her spirit pet status. But they saw her imprint that proved she was a spirit pet, which sparked envy for such beauty. Lily then pointed out Lex's pet drew all eyes, and Hana agreed that it made others envious. Back on the stage, Carl stared at Lex with a hint of unfamiliarity. Thinking that he was just another useless contender, he ordered his Uniros to get rid of Chu. The Uniros' eyes quickly lit up after hearing the command, then it charged forward with full force toward her. Seeing it relies on strength, Lex told Chu to strike mercilessly. She immediately complied and rushed forward with her claws ready. She then easily stopped the Uniros' attack with her bare hands. Carl saw this and was left in immediate disbelief. On the other hand, Chu's strength kept the beast from moving forward, but Lex no longer waited and ordered her to finish the fight. She responded at once and began to move the Uniros by its horn. The spectators were stunned as the massive creature suddenly lifted into the air. They watched in shock as Chu lifted it easily, like a beast in human form. Before anyone could react further, she threw the Uniros straight out of the stage. Seeing this, the referee announced Lex's victory and secured his next round. Carl, on the other hand, was still in disbelief, thinking Lex was just a loser. But Lex tells him no one stays a loser forever, and effort brings success. At that moment, the system told him he earned 10% experience from the win, so Chu's experience was now complete, allowing her to advance to level 10. Shortly after, the stadium was filled with the shout of the winners' names, including Chen. Meanwhile, Lex felt stronger from Chu's growth, and realized one more level means another pet. But his thoughts were interrupted when Chen called out to him. He was then shocked by his bruises, but he assured him the next fight might be easier. When the first round ended, Kong noted the clan's juniors were impressive. Lily heard this and explained realm visits shape clan growth, to which Hana agreed. Afterward, the second round for the top 21 was announced with match lineups. As the list appeared, Lex told Chen to relax, so Chen urged him to excel as a dark horse. Lex stood up smiling after hearing this, yet also noted Hans of the Feng clan was no easy foe. Later on the stage, Hans admitted Lex did well, but he told him to give up to avoid injury. Hence, Lex calmly replied it was too soon to judge. Meanwhile, among the audience, a man felt relieved with the match pairing. He's the Feng patriarch, and he felt Hans was lucky to avoid the great clans. Back on the stage, Hans raised his hand to summon his spirit pet. A green bird appeared instantly with a simple motion. Then he mounted it and shouted that Lex stood no chance against him. Seeing this, Lex ordered Chu to strike the flying pet when possible, and she agreed. At that moment, Hans directed his bird to launch a barrage of feathers toward him. Lex then erected his shield, and was aware he targeted him directly for an easier win. His swift move amazed the spectators, but the Feng patriarch still believed his son would win. Back on the stage, Lex ordered Chu to activate her blood fog. In an instant, a dense fog spread out from her position. It quickly spread and rose to Hans's height. So, Hans commanded his bird to charge forward and disperse the fog. However, Lex smiled knowing he had fallen into his trap. In the next moment, Hans and his bird found themselves bound tightly by chains. Chu also appeared behind him, which caught him completely off guard. Her attack caused the bird to let out a pained cry as it struggled to escape. However, Lex gripped the chain and declared it couldn't break his level 2 chains. After it, he pulled with force and slammed the bird out of the stage. The Feng patriarch who witnessed this then called out to his son in alarm. Nevertheless, Lex was declared winner after Hans's pet went out of bounds. At the same time, Lex happily gained more experience, and Chu rose again. As they left the stage, the crowd continued to admire Lex and called him a dark horse. The Academy representatives also expressed their approval of his courage. Tom said Lex's rank made the fight dangerous and timing crucial, though Lily disagreed. She believed Lex's strategy was deliberate, and his chain is meant for flying foes. After some time, the referee declared 20 winners, and said the next lineup was coming. Lex advanced smoothly, and saw his next opponent no threat without a flying pet. After a while, Lex stepped onto the stage once again. Yumi of the Yun clan also arrived fully prepared. Without delay, she summoned her frozen bear, and an enormous grizzly appeared behind her. The crowd quickly marveled at the rare ice-type pet, but Lex ignored them and proceeded to summon Chu. With both spirit pets present, the referee signaled the start of the battle. Yumi acted first by commanding her bear to crush Chu. Despite this, Lex remained confident and entrusted everything to Chu. In an instant, she leaped away from her position, causing the charging bear to miss its target. Yumi realized that Chu was too fast, so she ordered her bear to freeze her. The bear quickly exhaled a stream of freezing air. Lex was then amazed that the rare pet had mastered elemental force. Even so, Chu managed to evade the attack with ease, so Yumi responded by ordering her bear to adjust its attack strength. The bear then unleashed a massive wave of ice. It surged forward and nearly reached Lex's position. However, Lex had already anticipated this move. Just before the wave reached him, he raised his hand. Then he formed a spiritual shield to block the freezing assault. But a sudden crack surprised him that the shield had insufficient strength. At that moment, Chu moved swiftly above the bear. She extended her claws toward its face and struck with immense force. The audience quickly became excited after she suppressed the bear easily. Yumi was equally astonished by Lex's pet's overwhelming strength. Despite this, she refused to retreat and began summoning her spiritual chain. She extended it in an attempt to bind Chu. Believing she had finally gained control, she ordered her bear to attack. However, she soon realized something was wrong. She saw Chu remained unmoved, and she struggled to pull her. Lex then pointed out that her spiritual power was insufficient to control Chu. With that being said, he gave Chu the command to end the battle. Chu then immediately shifted her focus to the enraged bear. Once again, she reached for its head, and with overwhelming strength, she hurled it high into the air. Yumi could only watch in shock as her bear was sent flying. The audience was equally stunned by the sheer power on display. Moments later, the bear fell out of the stage, and Lex was declared the winner. The patriarch was shaken by Yumi's loss, yet he was told she had performed admirably. A fellow patriarch agreed, adding their junior would have suffered worse against that spirit. Back on the stage, Yumi approached Lex, expressing surprise at losing so easily. But she still raised her hand and expressed anticipation for his next performance. Lex also recognized her skill and was certain she could enter a top academy. After hearing this, she left feeling appreciative of his words. Just then, he found he gained EXP and strength enhancement for reaching the top 10. The enhancement finished instantly, erasing his pain and fatigue. Not long after the referee announced the upcoming semifinals and matchups. With the lineup set, they proceeded to their stages. Lex found his opponent was Yudo, who's powerful yet manageable. Later on the stage, Yudo arrived with a confident presence. He hesitated no longer and raised his hand to summon his pet. In an instant, an undead warrior clad in armor appeared. Lex was astonished that Yudo's spirit was of the necromancy type too, so he then called for Chu to step forward and face her opponent. With their spirit pets already summoned, the referee signaled them to start. Yuto's warrior charged forward, wielding its enormous sword. Lex quickly recognized the opponent's intent to fight up close, so he instructed Chu to focus on Yuto, knowing his defeat meant they would win. At once, she dashed ahead to face the warrior. Meanwhile, Yuto positioned himself behind his pet. As the warrior raised its sword to strike, a spirit chain suddenly appeared, and the warrior was swiftly bound in place. Yuto was then baffled by how Lex's chains restrained his warrior. While the warrior was immobilized, Chu vanished from her position. She reappeared above Yuto in an instant, where she struck him with her claws. He was then forced to kneel down, and he quickly admitted defeat. Lex's victory immediately stunned the audience as the battle ended almost instantly. The Lee Patriarch was also astonished and wondered if Lex won in one strike. Later, as Lex was leaving, a girl approached him and asked if he was Lex. He then replied by asking who she was, but she refused to say it and simply warned him to stay away from Jane. Upon seeing her running away, he couldn't help but find her strange. However, his focus shifted to the next matchups and discovered Shane as his opponent. Meanwhile, the representatives grew excited for the semifinals. Hannah even watched closely, while Fred commented Shane was also strong. On the stage, Shane noticed Lex and felt fortunate to finally face him. He acknowledged Lex's earlier success, but he thought this match was harder. Lex then responded calmly and proceeded to summon Chu. Shane was irritated by the response and summoned his rock warlord. Seeing it was rock type, Lex realized Chu's vitality absorption would be useless. Soon after, the referee signaled the start of the battle. Shane immediately took action and commanded his warlord to cast a stone prison. He was sealed at once and challenged Lex to break his defense. The crowd saw this and viewed the move as both impractical and effective against Lex, but Shane ignored them and called his warlord, wherein he ordered it to demonstrate its strength. The warlord advanced and struck the ground, sending a massive rock hurtling toward Lex and Chu. Lex quickly dodged and acknowledged the creature's formidable power. He then summoned his chains in an attempt to bind it. The chains successfully restrained the warlord, but its immense size made it impossible to move, so he relied on Chu and had her launch the next attack. She then used her speed to strike the warlord, but Lex saw its defense was too strong, and this forced him to rethink his plan. At that moment, the warlord broke free and charged toward Chu. Seeing the sudden turn of events, he quickly warned her to be careful. Chu heard the command and leapt out of the ground just in time. Murmurs then spread as many remarked on Shane's weakness against Lex. Across the stage, Shane proclaimed his true power and directed the warlord to transform. The warlord's eyes deepened into a fierce crimson glow. Lex sensed the danger and immediately ordered Chu to retreat. Before them, the warlord began to convulse violently. A sudden explosion burst from its body, which sent fragments of stone soaring into the sky. When the dust finally settled, Lex gazed forward with unease. He saw a humanoid figure of rock approaching them. Shane then revealed it's the warlord's peak skill that traded mass for agility and force. Hearing this, Lex was surprised by the hidden move but quickly ordered Chu to test it. Chu surged forward with astonishing speed. The humanoid warlord also met her charge head-on, where it raised its fist to strike. Chu answered in kind, and their fists collided in a violent clash, which sent shockwaves across the stage. But in the next instant, the warlord's fist shattered apart. Shane's expression froze in disbelief as he realized his pet had been overpowered. Lex paid no attention to his reaction and ordered Chu to finish the battle. Without hesitation, she rushed forward once more. Her claws lashed across the humanoid's face. Then she launches it high into the air. She even leapt from her spot to pursue it. Then she raised her left hand following that, and delivered a crushing blow to its abdomen. The impact sent the warlord to the ground, while Shane called out anxiously. Nevertheless, the crowd could only pity the humanoid and deemed the fight one-sided. Many even speculated Lex masked his ability, while others admired his remarkable pet. Watching all this, Lily remarked that Shane had still performed well, but Fred remarked that Lex's pet was likely already at rank 5 level 10. Kong heard this, figured the finals would be thrilling, and Lily agreed. After a short while, the referee officially declared Lex the winner of the match. At the same time, Lex was granted a contractable flying spirit egg that he wanted. Setting the thought aside, he stepped down, thinking of Jane and her battle. At that moment, Jane was facing a wind assault from a flying-type opponent, so she warned her dragon to stay alert. But her opponent already declared her intent to reach the finals. This opponent was Sophia, who promptly commanded her Storm Falcon to end the fight. In an instant, multiple tornadoes formed across the stage. They surrounded Jane and her dragon, leaving no escape. Watching this, Lex realized Sophia's strength and feared Jane would soon lose. Jane finally noticed her dragon suffering and anxiously asked if it was fine. But the collapse of her dragon led the referee to award Sophia the win. With a heavy heart, she told her father about her loss. However, he told her both winning and losing were normal and praised her effort. Not far away, Lex looked after her with concern, then thought of the finals. It was not long before he stepped onto the stage, still thinking of Jane. His eyes locked onto Sophia, and resolved to reclaim victory on Jane's behalf. After that, the referee began the finals and revealed a prize from the mayor. The sudden news stirred the audience and they began betting on Lex. Meanwhile, Lex summoned Chu again, and calmly said this was their final match. His tone was also firm as he pledged to claim the reward. Across from him, Sophia began to summon her own pet as well. She raises her hand and calls forth her Storm Falcon King. The powerful bird descended behind her with its presence so intense. With both sides ready, the referee signaled the beginning of the finals. However, Lex sensed the battle would be hard, as the Falcon seemed newly evolved. His suspicion was confirmed when Sophia ordered an all-out attack. The Storm Falcon unleashed a barrage of violent tornadoes. Lex then saw the tempest closed in, and it soon hit him from the sides. So he blocked with a shield, yet the power forced him to admit they needed a plan. Meanwhile, Sophia noticed his second-level shield, so she urged the Falcon to press on. She raised her hand again, and commanded it to unleash a sonic burst. The Falcon responded instantly by conjuring powerful winds. Then it hurled them toward Lex with crushing force. The representatives saw this, and thought the Falcon's evolution raised the battle's intensity. So Hana wondered if the Falcon would win, but Tom was unsure, since he figured that Sophia seemed a bit too impatient. At that moment, Lex entrusted the fight to Chu, and she responded instantly. Suddenly, smoke filled the stage and blocked all view as she moved. Then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the smoke began to dissipate. But what was revealed left Sophia stunned. The crowd who was watching were also left surprised. After all, they saw that Chu had already moved behind Sophia. Sophia's eyes then widened in disbelief as she felt Chu's claws resting at her neck. In that instant, it became clear that Chu dodged the blast and went straight for her. But with no way to resist, she slowly fell and conceded. Mayor Kong then rose, applauding the battle's remarkable end. He commended Chu's skill in dodging the attack and targeting Sophia. Lily also agreed and hoped to get Lex, but Hana warned her. Fred overheard them and said that Lex was also essential for their academy. After that, Kong announced the test's end and named Sophia runner-up and Lex the victor. Lex, who heard this, finally let out a quiet breath of relief. Meanwhile, the crowd marveled that someone outside a clan had claimed the title. As the discussions continued, Jane approached him. She congratulated Lex, who thanked her and asked which academy she would choose. However, she turned the question back to him. Before Lex could reply, Kong called for everyone to applaud for his victory. so his attention immediately shifted back to the stage. His professor even praised his success, while Chen openly confessed his surprise. Amid the commotion, the system issued him the rebirth skill that restored his pet from near death. Lex found the talent intriguing but figured it didn't fit Chu. However, Chen suddenly slapped him and pushed him to look forward. He then raised his gaze to see a screen listing those selected by the top academies. A wave of astonishment swept the crowd as Lex topped all 4 lists, even Zuju academies, so they buzzed with talk of how such a feat might never happen again. Some students also envied him and wished for Zuju if they had the choice. Meanwhile, Lex stared at the interface silently weighing his options. Yet before he could begin to decide, a voice called out to him. Fred then promised him 5-fold resources and thrice yearly realm entry if he joined Qing. The audience heard this and immediately cheered at such lavish terms. However, Tom interrupted and urged Lex not to make a hasty decision. He then pledged 8% resources and 5 annual realm entries, which sparked Fred's objection. Before their argument could escalate, Lily raised her offer 5 times. She declared Zhuan Academy promised 10% and 5 realm entries yearly. She also added that Jane was at Xuan, so they'd remain classmates. But her words left Lex momentarily baffled by Jane's unexpected inclusion. Jane herself was also startled and confused about being mentioned. Just as the tension continued to build, Hana stepped forward. She declared Zuju promised 15% and monthly realm access. On top of that, she announced he'd be the first male since the Academy's founding. Her remark quickly sparked envy since it's a female guardian academy with lavish rewards. Lex was also tempted, knowing 12 realm entries a year would speed his growth, so after a brief moment of consideration, he chose Zuju Academy. Once Lex's choice was confirmed, envy deepened as others lamented their lost chance. On the other hand, Chen enthusiastically honored Lex as the Academy's first male ever. But their conversation ended when Hannah approached congratulating Lex. She also looked at him and assured him that he had made the right choice. After that, she told Lex to prepare in a day for the Academy's airship and he agreed. She then finally left, while also assuring him he'd never regret his choice. Not long after, Teacher Liam informed Lex of the mayor's summons and he accepted. Later, inside the office, Kong was pleased that Lex had lived up to his hopes. As a prize, he gave him 300,000 credits and rare evolution material. Lex gratefully accepted it and vowed not to shame the Academy. But when he opened the box, he found that it was an immortal bone. He paused in awe at the high-level undead material, which is crucial for Chu's future evolution. So he told Kong it was too rare, yet Kong said he no longer needed it. He also believed entrusting it to him would one day bring glory back to the Academy. Lex then finally accepted it, so Kong dismissed him to rest. After he left, the secretary doubted the decision, but Kong insisted Lex's potential made it right. Later outside, Chen and Lex spoke of growing stronger, until Jane called out to Lex. She approached, smiling, and congratulated him on entering Zuju. Chen heard this and excused himself to leave them alone. Once he was gone, Lex congratulated Jane on Zhuan Academy and she acknowledged it, but she felt somewhat resentful as she remarked that Zuju was an excellent choice. After saying this, she wished him well and turned to leave. He then tried to stop her and urged her to say what she felt, but she kept walking. The next evening, Zuju Academy's airship finally arrived, so Lex stood beside Hana and waited to board. Inside the ship, female students peeked at him and were curious about their first male student. Meanwhile, Hannah told Lex to enjoy the scenery on the way, and he agreed. But Captain Ellie suddenly hurried over, so Hannah asked what was wrong. Ellie then reported something unusual ahead on their route. At that very moment, numerous bird monsters began circling the airship. Back inside, Hannah listened as Ellie reported a large group of flying monsters ahead. After hearing this, she ordered Ellie to prepare and Ellie obeyed. The airship then came to an abrupt stop. Outside, the flock of bird monsters became increasingly restless. Their flock even began to surge forward and rush toward the airship. Seeing the threat, Ellie ordered all spirit masters to the cargo hold to repel the monsters. Everyone moved into action without hesitation after hearing this. Among them were Yumi and Lex, who glanced at each other in surprise. He then inquired about the situation, and she said they were ordered to the cargo. At that moment, the airship fired explosives at the swarm. Amid the chaos, Hana told them not to panic, because it's just low-level crows. She then told Lex and Yumi to use this for practice, and summon their spirit pets. Yumi responded immediately by calling forth her frozen bear, while Lex followed suit by summoning Chu. The moment the bear appeared, its attention locked onto Chu, so Yumi quickly calmed it, and explained that Chu was not an enemy. Meanwhile, Lex observed the crows were a lot despite being low-level. Just then, a notification appeared before him. A timed mission tasked him to eliminate as many crows within 10 minutes. Suddenly, the crows began to let out a series of piercing cries. The crows then dove toward the airship, and Lex resolved not to waste the reward. So he urged Chu to unleash full power, and she acted immediately. In the next moment, she swiftly cuts down crows before Lex's eyes. At the same time, the frozen bear unleashed waves of icy energy into the air. Soon, the bear and Chu battled together against the crows. Chu's swift strikes even made defeating enemies look effortless. So many of the onlookers were captivated by her strength and beauty. But their focus shifted to the dark mist above. From within it, a massive crow emerged, and it's the Crow King itself. Hana recognized it instantly and warned it was a second-tier monster. However, Lex thought defeating it would bring greater rewards, so he ordered Chu to target the Crow King first. Hana saw this and ordered him to pull Chu back, yet he assured her she can handle it, but she dismissed his claim as nonsense. So she summoned her own spirit pet called Fiery Hawk. A blazing hawk then burst into the sky and chased the Crow King. The 7th-tier hawk left many suspecting she'd incinerate the swarm. Almost immediately, the crows left, and they believed the hawk had frightened them. Yet Lex remained, having Chu pursue the Crow King and not let it escape. Chu obeyed instantly and used her toxic claws to tear through the crows. Hana saw this and was surprised that a zombie pet could unleash poison. Meanwhile, Chu carved through the crows without pause. But despite her speed, the Crow King had already retreated. Everyone then assumed the monsters were now gone, but Lex felt frustrated the king escaped. Just then, the system's notification appeared before him. He was told he had slain 470 crows and earned crystals. While he's puzzled by the crystals, they are ordered to return inside the ship. Back in his quarters, he soon learned the crystals each provided 10% experience, so he looked at them with excitement, knowing Chu could finally evolve. He then opened her profile and found all requirements complete, so he finally decided to activate evolution. At once, a deep red light began to envelop her body. The glow intensified, and an ominous energy flared around her. The aura thickened and shrouded her completely, while he, on the other hand, watched closely. Moments later, she emerged once more and called him master. Lex stood motionless after hearing this, and was visibly stunned. When he checked her profile, he found she's now rank 2, and also saw the listed evolution materials. Seeing her growth reach the uncommon tier, he laughed in amazement at her strength. More than that, her new abilities included flight and blood manipulation. Hence, he allocated points to her flight for her to fly without limit. Suddenly, the system said the auto pickup was unlocked, and he gained a mysterious item. So he immediately opened the box and found a talent card. His eyes widened in surprise, as he had not expected such an item to even exist. The system then revealed it could copy a pet's talents, granting him 5 attempts. So he pulled Chu in excitement after learning this, but she questioned his action instead. However, he paid no mind, and decided to use the card to copy her abilities. After that, he obtained regeneration and blood fog, so Chu congratulated him. Yet, he told her more was coming, and readied himself to bind another spirit pet. Raising his hand, he focused on the egg and began the contract. The moment the connection formed, the egg began to glow intensely. A flash of orange flames soon exploded from the airship. The dazzling light also hit everyone, and wondered which spirit pet was responsible. Ellie, who was also affected, began to wonder if Hana was behind it. Unbeknownst to them, the source of the phenomenon was Lex himself. Standing before him was a majestic bird that he recognized as a phoenix, and this phoenix filled him with joy far greater than he had hoped. So he quickly checked its profile, and found it's a divine bird with epic growth, but the missing rebirth trait left him confused, until he recalled that he had it. So he bestowed the skill, and it evolved into Nirvana Rebirth. Seeing this, he finally felt at ease that it's now complete, but realizing it needed naming, he called it Jill, and it quickly agreed. He was then surprised it could speak, and was convinced it truly was epic. Not long after, the airship finally reached the holy city. The students quickly gazed at the towering buildings, and were captivated. Before long, Hana told them their first stop is the place they will study. As she spoke, they soon arrived at Zuju Academy. She guided them out, and gave them freedom to explore until accommodations were ready. But as the first male student, she told Lex his own mansion, and he accepted gladly. Just then, a car pulled up in front of them, and the driver greeted Hana. She also said the dean sent her for Lex, and Hana replied he was beside her. The driver was shocked Lex was male, and suspected he's cross-dressing. So, Hana explained Lex was an exception, and this made the driver finally understand. But as he bid goodbye, Hana reminded him she'd escort him to the dean later. With that settled, the driver escorted Lex to his dorm. Meanwhile, news of the male student spread, though many first thought it was rumor. So one girl confirmed that Lex had just passed her moments ago. Others then checked Lex's profile, and saw his strength justified the dean's favor. While some were thrilled at the idea of a male student, a girl observed quietly. She chuckled and resolved that she would make him fall for her. Unaware of this growing attention, Lex continued looking at his new place. Later inside the building, Hana brought him to the dean's office. She introduced him and the dean welcomed him. She even emphasized that Lex was the academy's first male student. Setting that aside, she inquired if he had truly mastered a rank 2 skill, while only rank 1. Lex then confirmed it without hesitation. After that, Hana asked which class suited him, and the dean placed him in Vermilion. Hana then took her leave after hearing this, while Lex thanked the dean. Later outside, he asked Hana about the Vermilion class. She then explained it was the elite class, and warned his gender might draw scrutiny. After he understood, she said she'd bring him to report in class. When they arrived at the Vermilion class, the students began to murmur when he entered. Many said it was natural he'd be placed there due to his strength. However, he already felt awkward, knowing he couldn't remain unseen. After a while, the teacher named Gina entered and called for silence. She tells them daily management was her role, while training was counselor guided. So, she began assigning groups by calling Hazel and Susie. Along the group is Lex, so she approached him. She told him he was in group 1 with Hana as counselor, and he accepted. Though it surprised the others since Hana hadn't taken students in years. Before more could be said, Gina ordered them to head to their groups. Later, outside, he was soon called over by his groupmates. He met Hazel, a short-haired girl, and Susie, who greeted him warmly. So he returned their greetings. Just then, Hana arrived and noted that everyone was present, but she said introductions weren't needed, and that she'd guide them until graduation. She also reminded them she wouldn't always watch, and they must start training. Late at the field, the sound of their training echoed. Hazel and Susie practiced together, and fully focused on their exercises. Meanwhile, Lex sat on a bench, when Hana said the academy would now honor its promise. With that, she gave him the secret realm card to use monthly. She went on to also explain that the realm held rare resources for faster growth. So he eagerly accepted the card, and was unable to hide his anticipation. Later at the realm hall, he overheard whispers that every guard was powerful. Some even wished to enter the realms, though it was beyond them. Unlike them, Lex walked in without difficulty. He casually approached a guard about entering, but he was rebuked. He was even asked why a newly enrolled student had come. In response, he presented his card. The guard saw it, and said it was odd for someone so new to enter. Despite her disbelief, she guided him, saying the entrance was at the corridor's end. She also explained each door marked a realm level, and warned him to start low. He acknowledged her advice but continued forward. Seeing him at the second level, she cautioned it was riskier with 3 days inside, and he hesitated. Suddenly, the system tasked him to explore the realm for an unknown reward, so he made his decision and chose the second level. He was reminded again to stay alert, yet his mind was set on Jill's advancement. She then watched him step in, and sighed that students lacked caution. Inside the realm, Lex arrived to find the area teeming with monsters, but he's determined to explore, so he summoned Jill and Chu for this important task. Jill then asked where they were, and he said it was a realm for her advancement, but she lifted her feet when he tried to reach for her. Then she rose into the air, saying leveling up is easy. However, he observed her temper, and thought that Chu was better. Afterward, Jill had already rushed toward the surrounding monsters, where she unleashed her flames towards them. The fire spread rapidly, and consumed everything in its path, yet she did not stop there. Her form began to change, as she transformed into a phoenix. Watching this, Lex remarked the transformation was overly noticeable. He warned her they were in a realm, and such displays would draw monsters. Just as he said this, a second-rank wolf leader appeared behind them, so he quickly began to back away in shock. After all, it was accompanied by a pack of first-rank wasteland wolves. Suddenly, the system assigned Jill to defeat wolves, and he quickly pushed her to act. She then surged forward, insisting he stay out of her way. However, the wolf leader also began to gather fire in its mouth. Then it released a burst of fire toward her. Seeing this, Lex was startled to see a fire attribute wolf leader. A powerful explosion then soon erupted, where Jill was struck. Yet the wolf leader's expression shifted almost immediately. Lex's laughter rang out next, as he declared that Jill has fire immunity. Hence, Wolf's attacks were useless and it's about to lose. Jill thought the same and vowed to burn the wolves to ashes. She unleashed a surge of hellfire toward the wolf leader, and in an instant, both the leader and its pack were swallowed by green flames. Lex watched this and was amazed at the flames' devastation. Before long, the entire group of wolves was reduced to ashes. As the leader fell, he remarked the scorched battlefield was terrifying. Soon after, the system rewarded him with materials, leaving him pleased with Jill. However, she told him to stay back, prompting him to seek other prey. Hearing this, she was irritated that he kept commanding despite her weariness. Meanwhile, outside the cafeteria, hungry students gathered after training. Inside, Hazel and Susie chatted about more training, but Susie wondered where Lex was. Hazel replied that he went alone to the secret realm, which surprised Susie. The others questioned it as well, since freshmen were barred from going there. Just like them, Yumi questioned why Hana had allowed him to go. Meanwhile, inside Hana's office, Gina was shocked a freshman entered the realm alone, so she questioned Hana's decision, but she replied that Lex's case gave no cause for concern. Still, she pressed her further and asked for an explanation. So Hana said a first-tier realm was safe, but Gina corrected it was a second-tier. Yet she dismissed concern because Lex was already second-tier. Gina then finally refrained from arguing with her, but as she left, she warned the dean would hold her accountable, so Hana hoped Lex wouldn't fail. At that very moment, Lex suddenly sneezed. So he paused and wondered if someone was talking about him, but thoughts were cut off when Chu spotted something ahead. He tried to look into the distance, but they remained unclear. So he asked Jill to carry them into the air to check it. Jill agreed but demanded a tasty meal later, which he accepted. Once they settled, she told them to hold tight as she sped up. As they flew, Lex enjoyed the feeling unlike always being carried by Chu. Before long they reach the location of the monsters. They then discover a group of flame lions, and they are engaged in a hunt against an Earthshaker bull. Lex observed the prevalence of second-tier foes, but had no plan to stay idle. Just then, one of the flame lions lunged at a bull. The bull saw this, and quickly raised an earth shield, causing the lion's attack to collide against it instead. Lex saw this chance, and told Chu to act stealthily. He also pressed her to complete the task fast, and she complied. In the next instant, she launched herself toward one of the lions, which triggered a powerful explosion upon impact. Taking advantage of the chaos, Lex ordered Jill to aid Chu in capturing the monsters. At the same time, Chu activated her blood manipulation, which rapidly spread toward both the flame lions and the bull. One of the flame lions detected it and roared at her. It even leapt toward in an attempt to strike her midair, so she responded by cutting it down with a single blow. As Lex watched, he noticed that her arm had been burned. However, he recalled her regenerative ability and saw the wound heal. At the same time, Jill had already drawn the attention of several flame lions. She seized the moment and released a wave of fire. Meanwhile, at Chuan Academy, news of Lex entering the realm had already spread. Many thought he'd struggle in the danger and waited to see. Unbeknown to them, Chu was performing well in battle. She effortlessly forced several lions to the ground, and there was no sign of hesitation in her expression. Lex saw this and told Jill to join in if she wanted to evolve, or Chu would finish alone. Jill flared up at his words and insisted that defeating them was easy. Back at Chuan Academy, Sophia mentioned Lex to Jane, as she thought he lacked restraint. However, Jane felt anxious that Lex's growth had been unusually rapid. Inside the realm while eating, Lex stressed time's value and told Jill to pause briefly, but she argued she was already exhausted, so he let her set the pace. Suddenly, Chu called out to him, so he asked what was wrong. She then gestured ahead and hinted at an odd sight. Later at the said spot, they discovered a dimly shining item. It resembled a fruit, though Lex could not identify it. Just as he was about to approach it, a massive figure appeared behind. Chu reacted instantly and warned him to be careful. Luckily, she pulled him away just in time. When they looked again, a massive two-headed green python appeared. Its enormous body loomed over them as it looked at them as prey. Lex then readied his chain considering if conflict could be spared, but he still moved forward and cast the chain toward the creature. He bounded at first, but soon saw the chains were too weak. The chains began to crack under the pressure, and the python broke free, so he immediately called for Jill. She rushed in at incredible speed. However, she's clearly irritated that her rest had been interrupted, so she released a burst of flames to push the python away from Lex. Then, with a swift motion, she struck the ground with a powerful flame attack. A circle flame soon protected them, and she ignored Lex asking why she did not use it earlier. Instead, she turned her anger on the python, vowing it would pay. She charged forward, cloaked in hellfire. But Lex reminded her not to damage the glowing fruit nearby, so she adjusted her attack and focused solely on the python. Soon the area blazed with green fire and even consumed the trees. The two-headed python also weakened rapidly from the flame, until it finally collapsed before Lex. With the foe down, he praised Jill and noted they'd enjoy snake meat again. After that, he approached the glowing fruit to check its kind. The interface revealed it was the fruit of the dead spirit used to evolve undead pets. Satisfaction quickly surged in him, since this was the material for Chu's evolution, and with fresh enthusiasm, he urged them to hunt more monsters here. During their first day, Chu began encountering more flying-type monsters. On the second day, they faced creatures resembling monkeys with multiple limbs. By the third day, Lex was chased by fire monkeys and called Chu and Jill for help. Following the fights, Chu hit Tier 2 Level 2 and Jill Tier 2 Level 3, which pleased Lex. But his watch reminded him their visit was almost done. Not long after, the portal finally opened, signaling their departure. Later in the dean's office, Gina reported the realm was damaged by fire, which shocked the dean. She also revealed Lex alone accessed the realm, and the dean became interested. So she told Gina to close the realm and send staff to repair it. But when Gina asked about punishing Lex, she said she had her own plans. Back on campus, Lex drew attention after the academy site showed him in the headlines, and being their first male student, they felt affection for him. But he brushed off the talk and felt uneasy about the attention. Suddenly, he received system rewards for completing the realm like crystals. Among the rewards was the Eye of Truth, letting him see data on any target, so he resolved to use it instantly after discovering its worth. He used the skill on a red leaf and learned it was over 30 years old. As he continued experimenting, he noticed a female student walking past. With 5 points, the skill showed her name was Linyu and her measurement. Troubled by its intrusiveness, he ran off, thinking it's a strange ability. Afterward, he went to meet Hana. Seeing that he had returned safely, she asked about his experience in the realm. While he replied it was worthwhile, he was suddenly told he'd been placed in 2nd grade. The news left him confused, but she affirmed it by providing a paper for him to get gear for the practical class. He then received a bonus, and directions to the top equipment shop called Celestial Pavilion. After saying all this, she sent him off alone, and he complied. Later in the city, he searched for the pavilion. He soon found it and was struck by its grandeur. Upon entering, a staff member asked if he needed assistance. On hearing his intent to sell, she asked if he was from Zuju, and he confirmed. But she insisted the academy accepted only women, so she rejected his request. He then tried to prove he's a student, yet she stayed unconvinced and sent him away. Just as his frustration grew, someone arrived and questioned the situation. The staff quickly turned and respectfully addressed the person as Miss. The person then identified herself as Mary and was studying in Zuju's 3rd grade. Lex quickly greeted her as senior, but she told him to just use her name. Moving on, she asked him to bring out the items and assure fairness from her family store. So Lex did not delay and take out a ring. From his storage ring, he laid out the collected materials. The sight left her amazed and realized the rumors of his realm entry were true. While checking the items, she saw a glowing emerald pearl. She lifted the pearl and shared she needed it for her vine to evolve. He heard this and offered it freely, since he didn't need it, and she accepted it. Afterward, she instructed the staff member Zara to total the worth and pay Lex fairly. But he said he also wanted ordinary gear and low-level materials, so she had Zara assist. Later outside, Lex learned his purchases would be delivered to his home, so he finally bid them farewell, and Mary told him to be cautious. Once Lex was gone, Zara wondered aloud if Mary had feelings for him. But Mary only told her to pay attention to the news and stay out of her affairs. Back at the academy, Lex's promotion to 2nd grade soon became common talk. Many of them felt annoyed, as the only male student in their class would soon be leaving. Meanwhile, Lex busily calculated his sold materials totaled 450,000 points, while the items he bought totaled 170,000. But he was interrupted by the sudden arrival of someone. A girl named Willa stepped forward and asked if he was Lex, to which he confirmed. But he was shocked when she suddenly attacked him, so as he parried her blows, he demanded to know who she was, but she only replied that he didn't have to know. She kept attacking and urging him to fight first, but he refused. Instead, he quickly retreated, calling the fight meaningless. She grew angry at this and warned him not to appear before her again. Later outside the school building, Lex called out to Hana. When she saw him looking exhausted, she asked what had happened. He then excused his lateness and told her he ran into a strange person. After hearing this, she advised him to get used to it and then mentioned his new tutor. Just then, a woman appeared, scolding Hana for ignoring her since she came back. The woman was Sheena, a 7th-tier guardian fresh from a mission. Upon seeing her, Hana told her she'd be Lex's tutor and that he was the only boy enrolled. Lex respectfully greeted her and expressed his hope to learn under her guidance. However, she stepped closer and studied him. She even touched his face and called him handsome, but said his courage was lacking. Before she could tease more, Hana cut in and said she was leaving. After Hana's departure, she led Lex to his classmates that are stronger than her. Outside the 2nd grade area, students were already talking about Lex's arrival, where they found it hard to believe he joined directly given the ranking system. Their doubts lingered until Sheena arrived with Lex by her side. One student quickly recognized him, and Sheena confirmed it. Following this, she explained the strict combat ranking and noted Seiya held 1st place. After being introduced, Seiya extended her hand and said she was the 2nd grade chief. However, he found their enthusiasm somewhat unusual, so he checked her profile and saw she was a level 8 guardian with 2 rare spirit pets. After learning this, he asked if beating her would make him first. Sheena warned him Saya was strong, but since he stood firm, she asked Saya to explain. Saya then explained Lex must reach the top 10 before challenging her. While he realized it wouldn't be simple, a voice shouted it was easy if he beat her. He then saw Willa offering her 3rd place if he won, but warned he must leave if he lost. Her appearance startled Lex, but Saya clarified she held the 3rd rank. She then whispered that Willa was too much, and they assumed Lex wouldn't accept. Contrary to their expectations, he accepted without hesitation. Willa's expression immediately turned serious. Without wasting time, she summoned her thunderstorm spirit. Saya heard this and figured Willa was really eager. Soon, the lightning before them took a shape. A massive level 7, thunderous bear then emerged behind her. The surrounding students were stunned seeing it and realized its strength. Lex then used his skill and discovered her spirit techniques had reached level 2. He also found the Thunder Fist and Phantom Shadow that are difficult to deal with. Even so, he calmly summoned Chu to his side. The moment she appeared, the nearby girls could not hide their envy at her striking beauty. On the other hand, Willa questioned why he did not summon a second pet, but he simply replied that one was enough and told her to proceed. At her command, the thunderous bear charged forward to tear Chu apart. Lex responded immediately by ordering Chu to meet it head-on. The two forces collided, sending up a cloud of smoke that filled the battlefield. When the dust finally settled, it became clear that the bear had not suffered a single scratch. Lex then saw its body was shielded by tough skin and dense flesh. As the battle continued, Willa declared that the real fight had only just begun. She then commanded her bear to activate Thunderbolt armor, and her bear quickly slammed its fist into the ground. In an instant, surging energy poured into its body. The sheer intensity of the electricity even forced Chu to pause her advance. Soon, the bear stood fully covered in a layer of armor. Lex felt concerned as Saya noted the armor both protected and damaged on contact. The watching students were also amazed and alarmed by the bear's destructive strength. So as the two clashed again, they wonder if Chu can handle it. Just then, she caught the bear off guard. She slammed it into the ground with a powerful strike. However, the lightning armor responded by shocking her arm. Saya saw this and thought the backlash would render her hands useless. Yet Chu's arm healed at once, and Willa's face shifted as she saw it. Lex then explained with a laugh that Chu had rapid regeneration. Willa realized she had underestimated him and grew serious. Without pause, she summoned a phantom lizard. The creature moved swiftly onto the battlefield without anyone noticing. Since they are all focused on Chu pinning down the bear, the students nearby are now convinced Willa would lose, with Lex's spirit like a machine. However, Mary noticed something unusual. She detected the phantom lizard and felt Willa pushed too far. As it moved closer, she thought the battle was unjust. At that moment, Willa grew excited and issued her command. The phantom lizard lunged at Lex, aiming to strike him down, but he suddenly sidestepped and evaded the blow he expected. Willa watched this in disbelief, not knowing how he sensed it. He then simply said he had kept his Eye of Truth active. Without delay, he summoned Jill and told her it was time to end the battle. Jill reacted immediately by hurling a blazing wave at the lizard. Willa saw this and ordered her spirit to retreat, but the explosion that followed cut off any chance of escape. The blast flared before the lizard, and Jill's hellfire engulfed it. Saya, watching from nearby, was visibly shaken by her overwhelming display. Before she could think, Jill kept hurling wave after wave of hellfire. She quickly realized it was dangerous and ordered everyone to disperse. The battlefield was soon filled with violent bursts of green flames. Where both the thunderous bear and the phantom lizard were caught, their bodies collapsed behind Willa as she herself fell to her knees. She looked at Jill's flames and admitted the power was frightening. As the students scattered, Hana arrived. Gina, who also saw this, asked if she had seen this phoenix, but she said no. Meanwhile, Lex urged Jill to withdraw since he hadn't meant for her to go all out. Jill then retorted with annoyance that he should have warned her before. After she calmed down, Willa finally conceded. She accepted defeat, while yielding her rank and its resources to him later. Soon, the students nearby admired him even more, but the system suddenly notified him of a mysterious reward for obtaining 3rd rank. Before he could fully examine it, the girls around him rushed forward. One of them asked how he had become so strong, while many encircled him eagerly asking for his guidance and contact information. Before things escalated, Hana called out to him. She waved at him and asked him to come to her. When he rushed forward, he was asked about the phoenix, so he explained it was new. She then moved on by telling him he must join Sheena's new mission, and he agreed. Later, inside his dormitory, he obtained Phoenix Blood, which allows 3 summons of a level 9 divine phoenix. Though he valued it greatly, he felt its limited use was a drawback. Suddenly, he received coins from Willa, so he plans to reconcile with her after his mission. Later outside, he acknowledged Saya and the others with a greeting. So Saya cheerfully noted it was surprising to meet again so soon. However, he went straight to challenge her position, which made her hesitant. Before they could decide, someone came asking if all had gathered. They saw it was Sheena in uniform, who at once mentioned Lex's new rank. When he modestly called it luck, she teased him for downplaying his strength. Setting that aside, she explained that they had an urgent mission to carry out. She informed them there's a low-level demon outbreak near Heian City. After explaining the situation, she asked if anyone had questions, but seeing that no one objected, she led them out without delay. Later, as they rode in the vehicle, she said they'd soon reach Heian City. She also handed them the mission details and told them to study the targets. As they reviewed the targets list, Lex observed the demons were of the undead type. Meanwhile, outside Heian, a horde of monsters had already gathered. Their vehicle approached, only to find large creatures blocking the way. Saya then realized the enemies were high level, and Sheena wondered if the report was wrong. Regardless, she resolved to enter the city ahead and told everyone to hold tightly. After that, she hit the gas to speed up. The vehicle sped ahead, smashing through monsters. As they advanced, a massive sword-wielding creature appeared. It leapt from above, so Sheena warned them to be careful. Lex instantly stood and raised his shield to block the sword. While he held the creature, Sheena urged them to stay steady. She then activated an energy boost, and the vehicle shot forward. With one last push, they broke through and entered the city barrier. Meanwhile, outside the walls, a Death Knight rode across the place. His eyes locked on the city as he vowed to sacrifice all within. He then lifted his sword and declared the city's people would be sacrificed under the red moon. Inside the city's castle, a man named Luther was being questioned about the situation. So he said the situation was dire, with demons rapidly increasing. Worse still, he revealed the presence of a Death Knight among them. The report left the room tense with little hope in sight. But Sheena entered, saying waiting would mean downfall, and insisted it was better to act. While Luther was relieved to see her arrival, she tells him defense alone would worsen losses as monsters spread. So he figured that they would have to deploy heavy weapons. Meanwhile, outside, Lex's group saw the city looked far from prosperous. Saya, on the other hand, grew worried about Sheena's long absence after meeting the city lord. Not long after, they noticed law enforcers nearby urging people to move. They then saw that a spirit cannon was being transported. Saya knew this weapon was powerful, and that meant the situation was severe. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed, which signaled the battle had begun. Seeing it came from the city wall, Lex urged they head there at once, and all agreed. At the city wall, a massive horde of monsters surged forward. The officers quickly readied the spirit cannons to fire, and a barrage of energy blasts soon rained down. At the same time, commands rang out to reload and hold the defenses. Meanwhile, Lex's group met Sheena, who told them to prepare to hunt once the gates opened. She also urged caution with the Death Knight, which left Saya alarmed at its 6th-tier title. After warning them, Sheena said she had other duties, and they must rely on themselves. Later on their way, Saya told Lex he was unlucky to face such monsters on his first mission. However, he was more absorbed in the system's task of killing monsters. Later, they reached the wall where he immediately caught the other students' attention. Saya then asked if he heard her warning, but he told her to repeat it. So she told him again not to die, or she would be left to collect his corpse. Moments later, a streak of lightning struck the platform before them. From it emerged Luther, who declared it's time for them to defend their city. Lex then used his ability to examine his stats, and he was struck by how powerful the city lord truly was. Luther's call to arms even inspired the soldiers to fight back with renewed spirit, so he respected Luther's ability and saw him fit as city lord. Soon after, Luther shouted that the monsters were close and ordered the gates opened. As the massive doors began to part, the cannons fired once more. The soldiers then charged out after it, while the monsters on the other hand also rushed forward. Seeing this, the soldiers quickly began to attack. They also had their spirit pets, and were reminded to coordinate. Following this, Lex brought forth Chu, and instructed her to stay close. Meanwhile, atop a distant cliff, the Death Knight watched the scene unfold. He dismissed them as nothing more than ignorant sacrifices, and with a single command, he summoned additional forces. From the ground, numerous spiders emerged. He wasted no time, and ordered them to go. Upon hearing this, they rushed toward the battlefield. Back on the front lines, Saya advanced while directing her spirit pet. Suddenly, a massive monster appeared in their path, and it lunged straight at her, so Lex called for Chu. She moved at once and struck the creature. As the monster fell, Saya expressed her thanks. However, Lex redirected them forward, and asked what's approaching. Saya then looked ahead and quickly identified them as cave spiders. Their large numbers soon rapidly closed in. Some soldiers were overwhelmed and began to falter. One of the spiders then locked onto two nearby individuals. Then it lashed out with its sharp limbs. Saya saw this and shouted at them to watch out. Just then, a burst of fire struck the spider. Lex's group then spotted Sheena behind carrying a smaller cannon. She even told them to stay wary, for the spider's attacks had a corrosive effect. However, Saya announced additional spiders were closing in. Because of this, their forces were pushed back, yet the monsters continued to pursue them. At that critical moment, a massive lion appeared. It growled once and released force that flung the spiders back. Lex saw this and could not help but recognize its strength. Meanwhile, Luther rode atop the lion as he charged straight toward the swarm. After breaking through their formation, he raised his sword and signaled the counterattack. The soldiers surged forward in response. They fired their weapons in unison and strike down the monsters ahead of them. Despite this momentum, Sheena noticed that the waves of enemies were not diminishing. Lex heard this and felt it was time for Jill to act. So he summoned Jill and called her into battle. Her fiery wings spread wide, which drew every gaze below. Her form even grew larger as she revealed her phoenix form. The crowd was then left in awe to realize she's a divine phoenix. Even Luther and his lion were astonished that anyone could form a contract with her. Back on Lex's side, he urged Jill to demonstrate her power. She responded confidently and immediately set the monsters below ablaze. Waves of fire fell, followed by blasts that shook the ground. The Death Knight watched this and was surprised these humans kept resisting, so he finally decided to intervene and unleash the undead frenzy. The energy quickly spread through the monsters, driving them into a frenzied state. One of these empowered monsters rushed at a soldier. With a single touch, it drained his life. He was then left helpless as his soul was torn away. Sheena saw this and noticed the frenzy overtaking the monsters since their attacks increased. Meanwhile, Luther drove his blade into the earth and brought out his ice crystal turtle. A massive figure emerged quickly beneath him. The turtle advanced forward and positioned itself above. It opened its mouth next and gathered immense frost energy. Moments later, it released a powerful wave of ice toward the monsters. The attack freezes several enemies while slowing the others. Lex watched in amazement and found the effectiveness of the slowing effect. Seizing the opportunity, the soldiers regrouped to counterattack, where they fire relentlessly at the weakened monsters. At the same time, Lex rode behind Jill, observing the battle from above. He also began to encourage her to show her power, and she agreed. She moved swiftly through the sky, hurling smaller phoenix flames ahead. Following this, she unleashed hellfire upon the enemies below, but Lex urged restraint toward allies, and she replied she had it handled. Soon, green flames engulfed the battlefield, so the people watching this were left awestruck of her power. Luther watched in disbelief as the divine phoenix really existed. Its flames were even so intense that it quickly burnt the monster. Nearby, the Death Knight looked up at Jill in shock. After all, he could not accept that a human had bonded with such a being. Refusing to believe it, he dismounted and rushed forward. He then kneels at the center, as he pleads for power from his master. As he vowed sacrifice, the sky darkened and black mist veiled his sword. Following this, his left eye burned fiercely with anticipation. The onlookers grew uneasy and were unsure of what he was summoning. However, Luther began to suspect that a mastermind was behind it. Just as he said this, a massive creature descended. Sheena looked up and concluded that it was the Lich King. As it moved, it immediately struck one of the people nearby. The sight filled the others with dread and wondered if they would survive. However, they were reminded that Luther and the spirit guardians are still there. Meanwhile, Luther joined Sheena and pressed to deal with the mastermind quickly. So he declared he will handle the knight while she protects the students. Upon seeing him charge forward with his lion, she decided to assist. Thus, she summoned her blazing bird. She then mounted it and informed Lex she would aid Luther, to which he agreed. So she and Luther quickly rushed past the Lich King. After a while, they finally reached the Death Knight. Luther attacked at once, intending to send it back to hell, but the knight deflected the strike and mocked his confidence. As he declared they can't defeat him, a monster emerged behind Luther. Sheena reacted instantly and commanded her bird to attack. With that, the bird sent waves of flames forward. Yet the Death Knight only laughed at their efforts. Just then, a massive claw descended toward Lex. Upon seeing this, he was left questioning what it was, but he was soon seized by the hand. Luther turned at his cry, and Sheena quickly realized that Lex was the true target. While others questioned why a second-tier student was being taken, Chu charged forward. She ignored the people's words, and she leaped into the air. Alongside her was Jill, who commanded the claw to release Lex. Lex saw them and ordered them to return to the spirit pet imprint. As they were drawn back, the crowd watched him vanish into a dark void. Luther then shouted in frustration that it was already too late. Sheena also could only watch as the claw vanished into the black hole. However, the knight began to laugh and mocked them as worthless. So she turned to him and angrily blamed him for taking her student. With this, she vows that he would pay for it, but he continued laughing at them maniacally. So Sheena and Luther attacked at once, denouncing him as a scoundrel. Luther acted quickly by unleashing the lion's roar, while Sheena commanded her bird to release a powerful blast of flames. The two attacks struck the knight simultaneously. When the smoke cleared, he was seen kneeling, yet still laughing. He scorned them as ants, and asked if they truly thought they had won. As he cried out to dream on, Luther saw that he was about to self-destruct. A violent explosion followed, releasing countless dark souls. Sheena quickly realized they were undead spirits, and cursed under her breath. The spirits rushed toward the remaining monsters, where they possess them and drive them into madness. Some turned toward the people to attack. Saya saw this, and was caught off guard, but a burst of flames struck the spirits and stopped them. Sheena came just in time, telling Saya the monsters mattered before Lex. Meanwhile, in the dark space, Jill asked Lex where they were, but he had no answer. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind him. Lex turned around and demanded the reason for being there, but the figure only laughed. The undead Lick called Wayne then said, Lex's courage made the Phoenix bond natural. However, Lex was speechless upon seeing he was an 8th tier. While he remembers Sheena and Luther's lower rank, Wayne asks him how he bond with Jill. In response, he said that he was only a 2nd tier spirit guardian. Wayne acknowledged this and began taking off his hood. He revealed his face and stressed that wielding a divine phoenix was extraordinary. As he conjured a crystal ball, Lex asked his intent, but he only told him to watch. The ground beneath them turned transparent and revealed a ruined city. Wayne explained that it belonged to the Scourge organization. He urged Lex to join, to shatter the Federation's lies, and empower him further. But he rejected the offer as baseless and planned to leave immediately. Wayne was enraged by this, and began to attack with undead corruption. He even attempted to force him to submit, but Lex reached for the Phoenix blood. He held it tight, and realized he also needed his final move. Wayne, on the other hand, conjured a black cocoon to eliminate him. Back on the battlefield, the monsters continued their rampage. Seeing the chaos, Sheena ordered all spirit pets to regroup and form a defensive barrier. The Stone Man, Ice Turtle, Dark Chimera, and Gale Dragon were all called back to hold the line. Meanwhile, Saya questioned Lex's return, but Sheena replied he must rely solely on himself, so she fixed her eyes on the swirling sky and hoped Lex survived. Back in the dark space, Wayne suddenly froze in confusion. Lex stood before him and was shrouded in radiant light. The glow spread outward, illuminating everything around them. So he shielded himself and looked up in shock. He found that standing before him was a 9th tier existence, and it's the divine phoenix itself. Lex suddenly called his name and asked if that was all he had. So he was stunned that he knew his name and even summoned a 9th tier phoenix. The thought enraged him, and he asked who he truly was. Lex only smiled, saying he would never get the chance to find out. He waited no longer, and he engulfed him in scorching flames. In response, Wayne clasped his hands. Then he summoned his own death, Cloud Alley. Yet Lex remained unfazed and chose to demonstrate the Phoenix's strength. With that being said, he ordered it to finish him. The Phoenix quickly unleashed an overwhelming flame. So Wayne was cornered completely. His body began to melt under the intense heat. As he vanished, he wailed, refusing to accept loss to a 9th tier Phoenix. Soon after he vanished, Lex was unsure if he had died or escaped. Suddenly, he noticed Wayne's storage ring and readied to see what it held. But the waning power of Phoenix blood reminded him he must go quickly. So he ordered it to unleash one final burst of flames, where he reduced the entire space to ashes. As everything collapsed, he was thrown out of the void. Everyone's attention below was quickly caught by it. Saya even began asking Sheena what it was, but they soon realized that it was Lex. So she immediately ordered her wind dragon to catch him. Moments later, they succeeded in rescuing him. Sheena also shielded them and commanded her bird against the monsters. So it responded by blasting waves of fire towards the monsters. After it, she rushed to Lex's side as Saya called out to him. After several calls, he finally opened his eyes. Sheena finally shared how worried she was, so he calmly said he was fine. While she continued scolding him, the other found the monsters began to withdraw. She observed this as well and concluded that Lex's return had shifted the tide. At that moment, Luther arrived, calling out to his men. He charged forward and ordered them to eliminate the remaining monsters. So Sheena and Saya brought Lex to safety and began asking where he had been taken. He then said a lich named Wayne had captured him in a dark space, which shocked her, since he was an 8th tier, yet he had still managed to escape from him. Realizing this, she quickly brought him back to check for any injuries. Back at their quarters, They agreed the scourge was behind the invasion, but they also rejoiced at his safety, and he agreed he was indeed lucky. After that, Sheena told them to let him rest while she reported back. They then said their farewells before leaving, and he did the same. But as soon as the door closed, his expression turned serious. He drew out the storage ring and began checking inside. He then found an experience crystal, a dragon scale, and a siren's eye. With such treasures, he now believed Chu and Jill would soon advance. Meanwhile, in Cataclysm City, the leader was informed that Wayne had failed. His subordinate also added no trace of Wayne's body was found. The leader asked how, and he replied that Wayne was slain by the divine phoenix. The leader lamented Wayne's loss, but he had already cautioned Wayne against such a being. Setting that aside, the subordinate reported he had a visitor, and he ordered them in. Outside, the robed man warned the person to speak carefully, and he agreed. As the doors opened, Luke was introduced as the son of the Liu family. Luke then looked around nervously, while the man continued, saying Luke wished to join them. The leader then addressed him as Liu's former heir, and he quickly looked up. Without further ado, the leader welcomes him to their organization, so he quickly kneels in gratitude. But before he could continue, the leader interrupted him, as he warned that joining had a price. Serpent spirits coiled around him. It all then went inside Luke without warning. Soon, his cries echoed as the leader said this is the price, and promised power for faithfulness. But he added that betrayal would condemn him to eternal suffering. Back in Lex's room, he felt satisfied with the ring's content. Among the items was a life-saving ring that blocked one fatal strike each month. He also found a card granting shape-shifting between human and original form. So he then called Jill, who immediately asked why. He asked if she wanted a human body, and she asked if it was real. He then showed her the card, and said it could make her human. Though eager, she's worried she won't transform back, so he promised she could. She felt reassured, and pleaded for his aid in changing form. With that, he quickly pressed yes on the interface to transform her. The card in his hand suddenly lit up. In the next moment, Jill's body was wrapped in an egg-like glow, while the card itself shone brightly before slowly fading away. Lex then watched Jill, and wondered if the change needed such vivid detail. Before long, her figure became clear, and he had to admit she was beautiful. Yet the more he looked, the more it differed from what he had imagined. Jill soon landed and eagerly asked how she looked. She even proudly showed her body, and his nose began to bleed. When she asked if she looked better, he fell, saying this little girl was too much. She then watched him convulse, and was baffled by his reaction. Later, back in the Holy City, Zuju's airship finally arrived. After landing, Seiya wanted to rest, so Sheena granted them a break. She urged Lex to rest too, but he said he must visit the pavilion first. As she told him to come back early, he considered the mission rewarding. He also found the system and battle spoils boosted Jill and Chu's strength. Later, arriving at the pavilion, he thought of selling Wayne's materials as Zara welcomed him. He then tells her he had many materials and needed more space, so she led him to an empty room, but he found it too small, so she wondered just how much he had brought. In the end, she guided him to a spacious area at the back. He felt satisfied with this and took out his storage ring. Soon, a flood of items poured out from the ring. The pile became a mountain, which stunned her as he told her to count. As she offered to call help for counting, a voice suddenly called to him. They turned to see Mary, joking he must have robbed the shop, so he replied that no one would dare do such a thing, and she agreed. Setting that aside, she urged Zara to get help since she needed to go to the auction. Lex became interested, and asked if she could take him along. However, she responded teasingly, asking why she should. He then gave her a small vial, but she wondered what it contained. He quickly noted her refusal was unfortunate, for the vial held fire dragon essence. The moment she heard it's the fire dragons, her expression changed in shock. She immediately grabbed him and hugged him, saying she's looking for it but he can't breathe. Zara, who witnessed the scene, was stunned. She fled, saying she saw nothing, which puzzled Mary, while Lex still felt her softness. Setting that aside, Zara was asked to verify the vial, and she promised to confirm it. Mary then turned back to Lex, who finally recovered. She told him she'd owe him much if it proved to be fire dragon blood. Hearing this, he told her he wished to see and buy a spirit pet egg. She quickly led him to the section where spirit pet eggs were sold. There, she said each egg had info, and she offered 40% off, to which he agreed. As he strolled through the selection, he noticed many rare eggs, yet none of them felt right. Just then, Zara arrived, confirming the bottle has fire dragon essence. Mary then exclaimed with joy that her fire dragon could at last evolve. Overcome with excitement, she grabbed Lex as he checked the eggs. She hugged him tight, thanking him, so he reminded her not to overdo it, but his nose began bleeding, and she was forced to finally let go. After calming down, she asked if he picked an egg, but he said none matched him. so she suggested they go to the auction house for rarer eggs, and he agreed. Later at the auction house, she said valuable items were common here, but she also emphasized that they were usually expensive. So he said he was there to try his luck, and she finally led him to her private room. Inside, Zara said the auction starts in 20 minutes, so Mary asked about the items. Zara mentioned a rare egg with vague details, which caught Lex's attention, so she reviewed the information again, but found very little to go on. Hence, Mary assured him he'd see the item himself soon. Not long after, the auctioneer greeted the crowd. She introduced herself as Linda and announced the auction's start. After that, she prepared to present the first item. A scarlet blood flower was then revealed that gave pets fire resistance and control. With a starting price of 1 million, the bidding began. Lex checked the flower's details and confirmed its effects. Even so, he was surprised the item started at such a high price. The crowd bid soon and it neared 11 million, so he asked why it was steep, and Mary said it's a necessity or the bidders inflated it. Before long, Linda congratulated the victor and shifted to the main item, where she quickly unveiled a mysterious spirit egg. She then said the egg had no records, yet bidding began at 3 million. Doubts quickly spread among the crowd, since none knew if it was good. Some noted its shell looked like white jade, yet still hesitated at the price. At that moment, Lex lifted his hand, shouting 3 million. He even made clear he was bidding the egg's starting price. The crowd thought he's reckless, yet Linda continued announcing the bid from VIP Box 1. Whispers then spread that the Celestial Pavilion might lose face if the item went unsold. Meanwhile, Linda waited briefly, then awarded the egg to Lex. Mary then asked why he bid for a low-value egg, and he thought she was concerned. But she quickly denied it, so he simply replied that he liked the feeling of the unknown. Yet as he looked at the egg, he smiled faintly after appraising it with the eye of truth. Afterward, Linda introduced the next item called Ice Sea Pearl. She revealed it held power to summon the Ice Beast, so the starting price was set at 20 million, making the crowd hesitate. Lex checked its information, and saw it also offered mental resistance. Suddenly, Mary asked his view, and he said it was impressive but impractical. Despite this, the bidding quickly escalated to nearly 30 million, but a voice suddenly raised the bid to 70 million, which shocked everyone. The crowd turned in disbelief at the extravagant bid, and even Lex was shaken. However, Mary annoyingly said Hugh of the Sun family was behind it, and decided to leave. Lex agreed since he will fetch the egg, yet he noticed her dislike for Hugh. Just as they left, someone called to Mary, and she asked why he came. Hugh ignored her question and asked her to look at what he had brought. He boasted he spent 70 million on the pearl as a gift for her. However, he began probing about Lex, only for Mary to reply it was not his concern. So he approached Lex asking why Lex was there. He even threatened to break his leg, but he just asked why he was angry. Mary then decided to leave with Lex, but Hugh refused. So Lex's face grew serious as he asked Mary to cooperate. Before she reacted, he kissed her, and this sparked Hugh's fury. As they parted, Hugh's face twisted with fury, declaring Lex must die. He called his men at once, and ordered them to kill him. Lex saw Hugh had strong guardians, but Mary reminded Hugh he's in her family's domain. His guard also cautioned it's the pavilion's auction, and they can't act rashly. So Hugh angrily threw the ice pearl to the ground. Then he turned away, ordering his men to leave. As he departed, his men informed him that Lex is a Zuju student with a phoenix pet, yet he remained determined to eliminate him. Meanwhile, Lex remarked Hugh would probably leave Mary alone after this. However, she told him to remove his hand, while Zara nearby slipped away. Mary then blushed as her first kiss was taken by someone younger than her. Unable to face him, she told him to return by himself before fleeing. He then watched her leave, and was surprised by her shy side. Later back in the dormitory, Jill assumed the egg was his new favorite, so he said it's a new companion. Without delay, he placed his hand on the egg to form a contract. The egg soon glowed with a golden light, and faint cracks started to spread across its shell. Moments later, it reveals a fluffy three-tailed fox. Lex reached out to the small fox, but it warily stepped back. When he finally managed to touch it, he wondered why it was so cautious. Suddenly, it leapt to his shoulder, and Jill angrily ordered it down. She insisted that it was her spot, and that the fox had no right to take it, so Lex told her not to be petty since she could now take human form. She then accused him of neglecting the old ones, leaving him confused. The fox then shrank at her tone, so he sighed it was getting lively. Putting that aside, he suggested naming the fox together, and she casually proposed the name Kai, but he found it too plain. As he gently patted the fox, he thought it was quiet and clever, so he decided to name it Belle instead. Jill said the name wasn't better, but he told them to get along. After that, he opened the interface and began improving Belle's skill. Meanwhile, in the office, Mary met her father Felix, who praised her for handling Hugh. He told her to make it clear that she was not someone to be bullied. Soon, he brought up Lex, saying his entry to Zuju meant he's great. However, he quickly noticed her flushed face. Mary turned away, insisting she was not blushing. But this only made him suspect she had developed feelings for Lex, so she immediately denied it and hurried off to her room. Watching her leave, Felix grew thoughtful and wanted to meet Lex if given the chance. A week later on campus, Saya approached Lex. She remarked it had been a while and observed he looked stronger, but he only replied that he had come to challenge her. The surrounding students quickly gathered after hearing this. They surrounded the two, praising Saya's strength and noting Lex's growth. While doubts lingered about his victory, Lex requested the start. Saya agreed confidently, saying she wanted to see how much he had improved. Thus, she immediately summoned her Gale and Diamond Ape. As they appeared, their roars echoed across the area. Nearby students began placing bets, most believing Saya would retain her position. Lex, on the other hand, summoned Chu, and her beauty is once more admired, with many people unable to take their eyes off her. However, Saya took it as Lex, underestimating her by summoning only one spirit, so he calmly reassured her and urged her to come. Hence, Saya ordered both her Gale and Ape to attack. The Ape charged first, swinging its massive arms. Lex swiftly evaded and leapt away from the impact. At the same time, the Gale targeted Chu behind. Saya even commanded it to reveal its strength, so it unleashes a powerful wind attack, yet she evaded gracefully, and Lex ordered her to use her new death gaze. Her eyes then darkened as he complied to his request. Then she quickly focused on the incoming Ape. Just as it prepared to strike, she managed to evade its slow movement. Saya then questions Chu's skill because her ape suddenly slows down. But Chu only took advantage of this and she slipped past the ape's attack. Then, with a precise strike, she sent the ape crashing.